Hernandez. Are we ready? I'd like to call to order the Avalon City Council meeting of April 16th to include a meeting of the council acting as the Housing Authority. If we would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will spare words of wisdom this evening, but on behalf of the city, we would like to wish everybody a very happy Easter, if you so celebrate. And may we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Albers. Here. Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Olson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cassidy. Here. Mayor Marshall.
Here. And we have two proclamations. Councilwoman Pam Albers will read the first one, and then Cindy McGugan Cassidy will read our second proclamation.
All right, this is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Avalon declaring April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and April 24, 2019 as Denim Day. Whereas the United States government has declared April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Peace Over Violence is declared April 24, 2019 as Denim Day in Los Angeles County, and whereas both events are intended to draw attention to the fact that sexual violence remains a serious issue in our society, and whereas harmful attitudes about all forms of sexual violence allow these issues to persist and allow victims and survivors to be re-victimized, and whereas sexual harassment is part of a continuum of violence whose damaging effects are felt throughout our culture, and whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Denim Day were also instituted to call attention to misconceptions and misinformation about sexual violence and the problem that many in society remain disturbingly uninformed with respect to issues of sexual harassment, assault, abuse, and rape, and whereas every 2 minutes someone in America is sexually assaulted, approximately 1 in 5 women are raped during their lifetime, about 44% of all reported rapes are of victims who are under 18 years old. At least 25% of women experience sexual harassment in the workplace, and about 75% of harassment victims experience retaliation when they report it. And whereas with proper education on the matter and comprehensive prevention projects, sexual violence and its unfair and traumatizing effects are preventable. And whereas the members of the City of Avalon strongly support the efforts of our Peace Over Violence to educate persons in our community about the true impact of sexual harassment, abuse, assault, and rape in Southern California. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Avalon does hereby proclaim the month of April 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, designates April 24th, 2019 as Denim Day, and urges everyone to wear jeans on that day to help communicate the message that there is no excuse and never an invitation to harass, abuse, assault, rape. Dated this April 16th of 2019, signed by the mayor and council people.
Thank you. Cindy?
I'll be reading a proclamation of the City of Avalon celebrating the Catalina Island Conservancy's 24th Annual Conservancy Ball, Soaring Over Catalina. Whereas the City of Avalon honors the Catalina Island Conservancy on the 24th Annual Conservancy Ball, Soaring Over Catalina, held on April 6, 2019. And whereas the city recognizes the Innovative Readiness Training, IRT project, partnership between the Conservancy and the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense, the United States Marine Corps, and the United States Navy, and specifically the following units: 1 Marine Expeditionary Force, 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing, Marine Wing Support Squadron 373, Naval Construction Group 1, 1st Naval Construction Regiment, and Navy Mobile Construction Battalion 25. And whereas this unique partnership has provided a valuable training exercise for military forces and has resulted in a repaired, renewed, and substantially more durable concrete runway known as the Ace Clearwater Airfield at the Conservancy's Airport in the Sky. And whereas the Ace Clearwater Airfield provides a recreational resource for aviators and explorers interested in enjoying everything Catalina Island has to offer. And whereas the city recognizes the essential function the Ace Clearwater Airfield performs in providing island residents and visitors alike with day-to-day provisions, including medical supplies, mail, and other goods. And whereas the Ace Clearwater Airfield provides a critical access point for emergency personnel in times of crisis or natural disaster. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the City of Avalon hereby commends the Catalina Island Conservancy for their service and dedication to Catalina Island. Adopted this 9th day of April 2019, signed by Mayor Marshall and members of the City Council.
Thank you very much. There are no presentations, and we will go to announcements and written communications.
In case anybody in the audience or out there in TV land is interested, the item number 9 in general business, the discussion on possibility of a harbor advisory committee is off the agenda for this evening and will be on the next one.
Great. Department head reports.
Good evening, Bob Greenlaw, Director of Public Works. Got 5 quick items. So I want to report that the focus of Public Works crews through mid-May continues to be the work downtown, including the serpentine wall, the repairs and the painting, the benches, the retiling of those, retile the steps of the stage, which is going to start in the week of April 22nd. Going to take the whole week. We're going to put a big crew on that. Clean the slopes on St. Catherine's Way behind the K-rail. Get that cleaned up so it can now receive more material. That'll happen before we get to Memorial Day. Pressure washing all the surfaces, including we did the mole building and all the pavers out there. And now we're working our way up the streets, and we're continuing to keep the alleys clean. And then we're patching and painting some of the dry rot. So just real light cosmetic repairs at the mole to keep the building together so it doesn't look so ratty. We're doing that. Clean up the bathrooms of the mole, so you'll see some of those mirrors that are actually in there. That's kind of a cheap fix to get those mirrors down that are actually got graffiti on them, and touch up the paint. Those are all things our contractors should be doing in there, and so we're making sure that when the visitor comes firsthand, that the first stop they see is a clean restroom and an ADA compliant restroom, to the best of our ability. We did landscaping along the waterfront. We're still continuing that from the mole to the casino. We had a huge help this weekend from Rotary, getting a big group of people in there that made that look great, and we're going to continue that effort. And we're in the Casino Way restroom project. So the demo's done, the plumbing is underway, and so that one is on schedule. The slide at the Yacht Club reactivated yesterday. It's real dry, the slide itself, but large dirt clods had moved up to the edge of the slide, and they were starting to come down about 10 o'clock yesterday. So that's why you saw Public Works out there on the roadway. And so now what we did, and by tomorrow, you'll see the fencing, the K-rail with the fencing be there, a permanent fixture for the summer here. And then we've put plywood behind that so that we can control that slide and offer more protection as we go through the summer here. And that should start slowing down. We're not seeing rain. The beach sand is to be placed in mid-May, the railing repair in South Beach by the end of May. And Department of Boating and Waterways visited the island to review our grant application that the city submitted. So we took them and showed them that. They did that for all the grants that were happening in Southern California. So we weren't just special, even though they treated us special. And then the ADA ramp project is underway, and it started today at Catalina and Beacon. And when that intersection's complete, then we'll move over to Sumner and Beacon. And then when you see that totally get done, you'll see those crosswalks go in and that temporary median all just rolling together with that project. And that'll be done before the major visitors come before Memorial Day. So that's kind of a fast-track project. Jordan Construction's helping us with that. That's all I have. Anything else?
So the crosswalks by Vaughn's, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's
okay.
The ones that I presented before.
Correct,
and I actually
correct.
was trying to get done before we had the mud flowing through town, and then we had the rain. And so then I just said, well, it's probably better just to wait because we were going to be tearing. There was not going to be this time period between the crosswalks being placed and the ramps. So just get out there at one shot, get it all done.
The ashtrays for the new trash cans?
So we're working on that. We have.
They were ordered today.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Chair Lou?
I'm sorry?
Chairlift.
It's ordered, okay? And we'll get an update on schedule here for when it's installed. But the install is a day or two when it is here, and the contractor is really motivated to get that done for us.
Okay, so it clearly wasn't a 4-week manufacturing.
No, it's not.
What are the financial arrangements that we made with the Island Company with regard to the Casino Way slide? We don't own that hillside. Where the slide's originating is not ours. Right?
I was not under that impression.
Yes, at least from what I see from our GIS, yes, that hillside is ours.
That is ours.
That is
Up
ours.
to a-
From the Crescent Avenue walkway down to the casino, till St. Catherine's Way, and all those pieces of those different pieces of dedication, and that chunk of land up there is ours. Then as it turns a corner around the casino, it starts becoming an Island Company.
Okay, I was wondering where it left
Yeah,
off.
there's some
Okay,
delineation.
because I know we have an arrangement at Pebbly, and...
Yes, we
okay.
do.
Okay.
And I am gonna, and that's, this next meeting, it's too many items here. We're talking about storm damage, so next meeting I'll be talking about that. And then a bigger effort as it comes to the fall, because really what I'm doing is cleaning out behind the K-rail. But then I have a massive clean out and making sure that it's good for the next few years as we move into fall. I just can't get that done with all the visitors coming.
Okay.
Bob, one more question for you. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, just, I know with all the digging going around town with the pipes getting broken and stuff like that, and I know the people who dig them up pay a certain amount of money to the city, and they fix the holes themselves. Do we have anybody in your department or go by there and check and make sure it's done right?
Yes, between me, Jamie, and Jeffrey.
Okay.
And then
And we
there
do
are
that
some of them.
pretty regular, or?
Yeah, we need to even stay on it more because,
Yeah,
I have them on a list, and I just handed a list to
Okay.
Jamie the other day, again, that says, hey, we need SCE to come by and
Yeah, they
and
made
spruce
that.
things up. And then also at the Vaughn site, when we're out there with Jordal, I'll make sure that those patches stay good until we get the hot mix.
Yeah, because that was just the one they fixed up the street down here on Tremont and Descanso. It was a nice speed bump they made.
Yes.
So I just wondered what he's.
So they're leaving them a little bit high so they can go down, so that first couple of
Yeah.
weeks you'll.
Well, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah,
I'm familiar.
okay.
I worked a little bit of construction. Yeah, but that, I just want to make sure we had somebody staying on that and checking out.
Yes, we
those.
do, and we have a
Okay.
continuing
Because
list.
there's a couple other spots too that they've dug up in other places.
We're
Yes.
trying to get better at that, Richard, because I know
Well, I know they paid.
prior
for
to
us that,
Bob,
right?
we
Right.
weren't very good at that.
So I'd like to see us probably get on that a little better before the season starts. with
Okay.
all the- If we can.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
and so right after our focus from the waterfront and before Memorial Day, we'll actually go around and do paving like we do, our
Great.
normal pothole
Perfect.
around there. Okay?
Okay.
Good afternoon, Council. Harbor update. As you know, last week we got hit with a couple of days of small craft advisory and a couple of gale warnings, and I cut down on the boat traffic. Hopefully, small craft went up against afternoon for northwest winds, so hopefully this week with all the Long Beach School getting out, we'll still get some boat traffic, but I think a lot of people are still going in the snow to go skiing, so. We're proceeding with our summer preparedness with swim floats and everything else. We're currently building another dinghy dock up at the warehouse this week, and hopefully by the end of the week, next week, we'll probably be able to have that put in. And that's about it. Unless you have any questions,
Where's the new dock going to go?
the new dock's going to go under a ramp on the west side dinghy dock, and then that dock that's there is part of the club dock. So there's a big puzzle going on right now every year with our dinghy docks. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Captain John Hocking, LA County Sheriff's Department. I just have one quick thing, a noteworthy arrest that the deputies made. On Saturday night, there was a burglary where a suspect entered a residence on East Whitley, and the property owner heard the suspect downstairs in a different unit, went downstairs, entered the unit, and found the suspect inside. The suspect threw some baby powder that happened to be sitting on the counter and then fell onto the floor into her face and ran. Within about 24 hours, the deputies had the suspect in custody, and he was just taken over to the mainland today, and he'll be taken to jail. Basically, his excuse for committing the burglary was he was under the influence of methamphetamine. He has a drug problem, and that's one reason why the Sheriff's Department is so stringent, so strict with possession of narcotics on the island, especially methamphetamine, cocaine, those type of narcotics. And because they lead to other things such as burglarizing residents to get property to try to sell it so they can basically pay for their drug addiction.
All right, well, thank you. Any comments or
Any questions?
I think we're good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Just a few quick reminders for activities that are coming up this week. Thursday this week is our Spring Festival. So Spring Festival on Front Street, we have 38 food vendors and game booths throughout the evening. We start at 5 o'clock, goes to 9 o'clock. Cruise control will be on Wrigley Stage from 5:30 to 6:30, and then again from 7:30 to 9. Saturday is our Community Egg Day at Descanso Beach. We've got 4 egg hunts planned, one for infants to 3-year-olds at 10 o'clock, and then about every 15 minutes, a 4 to 6-year-old, a 7 to 10-year-old, and then 11 and older. To 17, not older. 11 to 17. Let's keep it at that. Pictures with the Easter Bunny, and we'll have some arts and craft projects for that. And then our Arts Festival. The Arts Festival is on Front Street as well, just a reminder of that. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on Front Street. Jim is probably going to touch on the cleanup day. Why don't you go first? So I'm not going to steal the thunder. I do want to thank him for his effort in getting this pulled together. It was a great first one out, at least in my involvement. We had about 50 people. A couple thank yous. Jim won. City manager was out. I think she got left high and dry on her route of one of the zones. Her little helper faded. Her little helper started and kind of faded at one point. But thank you, City Manager, for coming out. Mayor came out and worked with the Girl Scouts at one of the zones, and I want to thank the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and I think he'll probably touch on the sponsors for the event. Thank you.
Great. No questions? Okay.
Matt Baker speaking on behalf of the Finance Department. Finance is currently wrapping up the last remaining items as part of the 18 audit, and we're hopefully still on schedule to have that completed before the end of this fiscal year. We're starting to shift focus to the budget. We provided council with our preliminary outline of when we anticipate those various items in the budget to be addressed. Other than that, we're continuing to, like I said, focus on the audit and then the budget. Unless there's any questions.
All righty, thank you, Matt.
Amanda Cook, Planning Director. Just a couple of really quick little things. The Yacht Club's going to be replacing their front steps, and they have a couple of braces to replace on their pilings, so you'll see some work happening out there in front of the Yacht Club. Had a really great conversation with our new analyst over at the Coastal Commission. Her name is Mandy Revelle. She's replacing our much beloved Chuck Posner. He's retired. And she's anxious to get started with us working on the next steps for our LCP update. And that's about it, unless you have any questions for me.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
The new CIVR building on Catalina.
The new
Catalina Island Vacation Rental Building on Catalina.
Yes.
Is that done and they got permits? I mean, they're done?
They're done. They're in. They moved in a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, so there was, somebody approached me that there's no handrails or anything on going up to the stairs on there?
I believe the height of the stairs didn't require handrails. It's only like 2 steps.
Okay.
But I can double check with the building official.
Okay. And we don't really require, as new buildings come up or are renovated, we don't require handicap access necessarily if it's a
It depends on the amount of the renovation.
Okay.
as to whether or not you're required to put in a ramp.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
And then right down there also, the same area, that they have 4 or 5 vehicles that they have, or 3 or 4 vehicles that they have. They seem to be parking there a little bit. Maybe we just make our code enforcement officer a little more aware.
Okay.
They've been staying there a little longer than normal. And I've
Okay.
got a couple of
And
complaints on that.
Is that all, is it 1 hour all
It's
the way?
1 hour parking all the way down, I think.
Okay.
Right now, and it's on Catalina. So
Okay.
you might
I'll
just
reach out
mention
to
it to
them.
them and pass it on.
Maybe employees could park somewhere else? Okay, that's it?
Other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, city manager report?
I am pleased to let you know that the new assistant city manager will be starting on Monday, May 13th, and his name is Michael Palmer. He came to the island this weekend with his wife, and the mayor was able to meet them. They did find housing, so we're very happy about that, and we're very excited about him coming on board. Per the city's records retention policy, we shipped off 25 boxes for proper destruction. So that was good. So some in the hallway now, you can get by a little bit better.
Wow.
Per the city council's direction, I have toured 2 multi-unit homes. One the mayor joined me with, and I would say that neither one of those would be fruitful for us. The filing deadline for our new finance director closes on April 30th. So far, I wouldn't say it's looking too promising for us at this point. And then I wanted you to know that the Catalina Island Conservancy had reached out to us maybe a couple months ago. They wanted our input and help on putting up some flashing speed sign, mainly up near Hermit's Gulch or somewhere along that canyon, because I guess a lot of fox are being killed, and so they wanted our input and assistance, and if they could place a sign as a test to see if that helps. And then I just wanted to comment on the cleanup, Dan and Jim. It was really great. It was a good turnout for the first part, and I had a great partner. I told my partner that if I had $1 for every cigarette butt that I had picked up, that we could go to Hawaii and back. It was really bad. The cigarettes on the trash part of it was pretty good.
So bad, yeah.
And that we did purchase 27 freestanding cigarette waste containers today. We talked about possible ones that could connect to the sides of our new trash cans, but once we do anything to the trash cans, it voids our warranty, and I didn't want to do that with all the money we spent on them.
Right, sure.
So I think that's it.
Okay, city attorney?
Just a heads up that in the next couple of meetings, we'll be bringing a wireless ordinance update to you. We haven't really done that in a while, and so we're making it, updating it and making it compliant with recent changes in federal law. And just to note that I think it was last week, the Supreme Court approved the city's ability to put aesthetic factors and conditions on wireless facilities. So we do have some police power if and when those come. We're also, the ordinance will address placing wireless antennas on city property and lease provisions. This is all preparing for the 5G services that will be coming in the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Council members?
Sorry, I can go. I attended the Gateway Cities Council of Government meeting first Wednesday of the month, and I wanted to say thank you very much to all the service clubs in participation, and especially Jim Lute-Johan, who put together the Care for Catalina Cleanup Day. Unfortunately, I was over town for the day, but saw lots of photos and appreciated all the posts. And then I don't have any idea who a letter would go to, how we would send a letter, but I would like to request of the council that we please send a letter of care to whomever the powers that be in France are regarding the fire they've just experienced with Notre Dame.
I have my Paris.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's many, many members of our community who shed tears over that as well, and it's just, it's just something that I would like us to reach out and probably email is the best way, but at least so we've
And I would like to congratulate those billionaires that have already given over $400 million to rebuild. That is incredible.
That's incredible. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm good. Bob answered a lot of my questions when he was during his
Okay.
thing, so that was all I really had.
Okay. Councilman.
Welcome, Merle. It's good to be back. And again, I thank everybody for the well wishes and so forth. We did get an update on the advice letter that Edison had filed seeking to raise the increase in order to ensure that they are collecting the amount of revenue that they have already been adjudicated to be entitled to after full hearing. That's remember the 4.13 million?
Yeah.
So the proposal is to approve that and to make some other kinds of regulatory changes. I've got a copy of the cover letter, and I've written down the URL where you can look at the full decision and the information if you are interested in submitting comments, which are need to be filed on or before May 2nd. It has the information on how to do that, so I'll ask the city manager
We'll put it on
that
the
we
website.
put that on our website. And I think what we need to do is, I know I've been gone, but get back into having this as a regular agenda item on the second meeting of the month.
And I have the whole packet.
Okay.
If you want to pass that down to.
Okay. That was it.
That was it. Thank you. Welcome back. I attended C-Trade in Miami with Jim and David Krieg. We sat down for a good hour with Carnival to talk about the possible ballot measure next year of the hospital tax get their understanding, get their concerns, and I think we have some pretty good ideas. We haven't gotten a letter from them yet that we're going to put in writing, but I think that'll help get their support for that when it gets on the ballot. And we also talked to another cruise line who's talking about coming here, and that'll be kind of exciting. Not year-round, but probably 6 months a year, 1 day a week. And except for that, don't fly during spring break. It's expensive.
And when is the Grand Prix?
It's last weekend.
Oh, good. I missed that. And Jim, I don't know if you're going to discuss this a little bit. There was that little lead-in the newspaper that I was hoping it was April Fool's, but about Carnival Cruises and the judge perhaps giving them a timeout. Were you going to discuss that a little bit? Okay, and why and that whole thing?
It's Carnival and Princess discharged scrubber waste in the ocean, which is oil-based. Carnival dumped some gray water and dumped some plastic, and they're just not reacting appropriately in the judge's mind, so he's threatening to have them stop calling on U.S. ports, but I think it's trying to get their attention.
That's kind of scary for Avalon.
Oh, it's scary for everybody.
And so I don't know, yes, it's shame on them for doing that. I don't know how we get involved or the chamber gets involved on that, but, okay.
So just to enhance a little bit on what Councilmember Olson said too, I think it was no accident the timing of the judge's announcement being during the largest cruise industry conference on the planet. So it was definitely about getting attention and putting the spotlight on them when BBC News was there and all of that. So that was a big part of what was going on was some game. But they did violate conditions that they were meant to operate under, and it would be within the judge's purview to interrupt their operations to some degree or sanction them. We have offered to be an interested party responding to helping them address, whatever they require, and we were asked gently to stand down and let their legal department take the lead and be the first to speak, and that they would then let us know if they sought anything from the ports they serve. So.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to be going on vacation for 2 weeks, but I'm leaving my husband at home, and that's what you call a vacation. Anyway, so I'll see you about the 1st of May, but you can drop by and say hi to my husband at any time. So that's all I have, and if you don't mind, I would like to move up item 11. I know if it's of interest to everyone, and so I'll have Audra come forward and introduce item 11.
Can I interject one thing, Madam
Yes.
Mayor? I will miss the first meeting in May because I will be on vacation.
Oh, okay.
With my wife.
Oh, okay.
Not leaving her home.
I did have a report out from the fire chief and that he had sent something to the Islander about the weed abatement, the rubbish and weed abatement. It was supposed to be posted in the first 3 weeks of the Islander, and it was not, so I was copied in an email thread yesterday, and it will be for the next 3 weeks.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Audra McDonald, Administrative Analyst. On behalf of Catalina Express, I'd like to thank you for moving this ahead. Even though they own the Express, the boats still have to run on time. And I'd like to shout out a happy birthday to Judy Rios. A lot of the stuff that we have in here couldn't have done without her. So obviously she's not here because she's celebrating her birthday. Tonight we're going to be talking about the commuter subsidy program. We're going to talk about the background so that people in the audience and maybe council members that are newer to the community don't know about it, and then some proposed changes that we have coming forward. Sorry for the small print. It looked a lot bigger on my computer. In 1993, then Los Angeles County Supervisor Don Knabe realized that the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority did not serve the residents of Avalon and Santa Catalina Island, and he lobbied Metro for some financial assistance. Metro, with the support of Supervisor Knabe, provided the initial funding of $160,000 to offset the cost of ferry travel for residents of Avalon and Santa Catalina Island to the mainland. At the inception of the program, it was determined that commuter books would be the best way to offer the deepest discounts to residents, as the commuter books were already had a discount built in. In the beginning, the only requirement to get the discounted book was to have a California ID with an Avalon address. So we had a lot of people that didn't live here decide they were going to go get their address changes, and then we ran out of money real quick, for those of you who remember back in the day. So the city changed the ID requirement to the system that's now in place, where a resident must prove the residency in order to be eligible to participate in the program. The funding cycle for the program runs concurrently with the City of Avalon's fiscal year, and there have been years where it's been cut off, sometimes as early as April because the funding was exhausted. Over the years, the City of Avalon has been successful in obtaining funding increases to the current level of $650,000 annually. Since 2016, the city has gone over budget by approximately $45,000 per year, fiscal year. The reason that we let that happen is because when we go in and ask for more money, we have to prove that we've gone over. We have to prove that there's a need. So we are currently in talks for requesting an additional $50,000 a year for the program with Metro and the help of Supervisor Janice Hahn. The funding received from Metro is not guaranteed, and it must be initially approved by the LTSS, which is the Local Transportation Systems Subcommittee. That's a mouthful. And that's actually a board that I now sit on, and then approved by the full Metro board annually. So it's important to know that this money is never guaranteed, ever. The funding source is local return funds from Proposition A, Incentive Sub-Regional Program. So the proposed additional program to the commuter subsidy program, we're realizing that the existing program is working well for a majority of the residents that travel a minimum of 5 times per year. That's how many tickets are in a commuter book. The city also realizes there is a sector of the community who travel less than 5 times per year, wherein the purchase of a commuter book does not make sense financially. Conversely, a small number of residents may purchase a commuter book to realize the savings, but still do not travel the 5 times per year, and then they end up with unused tickets. The pilot proposal before the City Council tonight, if approved, will create an opportunity for residents who travel infrequently. Really? I practiced. There we go. Okay. The additional program would allow residents to choose between the existing commuter card that is there now, 1 book per month per year, or 4 round trips per year at the rates listed in the PowerPoint. In your staff report, we didn't call out the Dana Point differentiation, so we've put it in here. So for the adult, it would be $57 round trip with the card, $41.50 for children. That's to Long Beach and San Pedro, and this is based on round trip. And Dana Point, round trip $59, and child $43.50.
Excuse me, Audra? How do
I'm
we use
sorry?
county money for Dana Point?
Because this changed a couple of years ago. I called Metro and I said, if part of the trip is originating in LA County, can we do it? So they said, sure. So we opened it up, and I think that the people that buy the Dana Point books pay a little bit more because it costs a little bit more. But that's been at least 3 or 4 years now, Denise? Is that about? It's been a little while. A resident must choose which program best fits their travel needs at the time they renew or apply for their subsidy card. The current medical necessity program would still be in effect, and should a resident who chose the 4 round trips per year had a medical condition that necessitated frequent travel, then they would be moved over to the commuter book program. If a resident has already renewed an existing commuter subsidy card and has not yet purchased a commuter book, they can surrender their current card for the 4 round trip card. Let's see. Doesn't want to. Oh, don't go for it. Okay. The proposed new program would be considered trial or pilot beginning July 1st of 2019 through June 30th, 2020, to allow the city to assess the financial impact, if any, and determine if the pilot program is assisting infrequent travelers in the manner the program is intended. The potential financial impact has been reviewed and assumptions made based on the data below, and I would like to thank Matt Baker for his assistance with this. We pulled this information out of the commuter subsidy database. So assuming that 100% of non-active residents use it 4 times a year, the cost would be $42,616. Of course, these are guesstimates. And then finally, I think we need a new clicker. Oh, there we go. The sample of the new 4 round trips card, we suggest that it would look similar to this draft and be white because all the other cards are colored, so it'll be easy to differentiate, and then you would just have 1, 2, 3, 4. And it would be up to the discretion of the user. If they wanted to use all 4 in 1 month, then they'd be done for the year. But that would be a choice that would have to be made at the beginning. And I would like to thank Catalina Express for their assistance in being willing to create a new opportunity for the residents who don't travel frequently. And with that, if you have any questions for me or for the Express, they are here as well.
I think it's great. I'm all for it. And I guess I would, if there's not a lot of discussion, I would.
Well, actually, I do have discussion because I had a long discussion with Audrey because I felt that this identifies such a small portion of our community and their travel needs, and what the real need is for people who can't put $200 together at any one time, who are just as entitled to any other resident to take advantage of these funds. They're public funds that are supposed to benefit every resident, but we have a number of people who just can't afford at any one time to buy a commuter book.
Right.
So when you say that people travel 5 times a year, they get a book, no. Those of us can afford it, buy a book a month. And so we take those of us that can afford it, take the bulk of the benefit, and there's, I think, a significant portion, or I'd be interested in finding out what proportion of our community is not able to take advantage of this because they can't afford to buy a commuter book.
And I don't disagree with you at all.
So I'm not saying that this isn't going to benefit some portion, some small portion of our community.
Right.
But I think that there's a bigger problem that we really need to address. And it might be, if we can't get more funding, that maybe not everybody gets 1 book a month.
Right.
That we look at how it's done. And this is a step in the right direction. So I don't mean to detract from what you've done. I just hope that this is a building block for really looking at the fairness of the program.
And I completely agree with you. And when we had this discussion, the reason I gave the background in the program is because it's really been the same forever.
Right.
So to just even make one small change and then assess it financially and then go from there, and then really see how many people choose the four tickets. Because if we have a lot of people choosing the 4 tickets, that's also going to be an indicator that maybe they are frequent travelers, but they can't afford the commuter book. So I think that this is a baby step for a whole holistic review of the program. I'm in complete agreement. Exactly how we get there, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And I know a lot of this started because of the concern from the community for the commuter books that get outdated.
Right.
You know, and,
Right.
and that kind of thing. And I know that there's been hopefully this will solve part of that problem going forward, that people aren't stuck with tickets. And I know there is a reimbursement rate for so many, and I don't know if all that's, I think is in here, if people want to look at the fine tuning or what
They can
the
just
work
go to
that
the
went in.
Express, and Judy will answer all your
I know,
questions.
but that's
Yeah.
difficult. It might be easier. I mean, just how the reimbursements and the little chart like you have right here, that kind of thing was really good that you gave us. And I don't think that they should go to the Express to look for this information. It was like the subsidy books and the non-subsidy books and the rates. And if somebody really wants to delve into it more than what we're doing here, we do have that backup information for the folks.
Put it on our website.
And we could put it on our website, but
If Catalina Express is willing, because it's their
Oh, it's their data.
It's their data. So I would want to make sure that we aren't putting something on our website that they're not in agreement with.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
We'll talk it over with them. And
Yeah,
just say-
I will. I think if we start July 1, it'll give us an opportunity to follow it for a year, and we wanted to make sure that if somebody had gotten their card and then said, well, no, if they haven't punched a ticket, they can just surrender that card and then they can move into the other program. And also making sure that people that have medical needs, maybe people who, senior citizens who travel infrequently, end up with a medical condition, there is a way to handle that as well. So.
That's good. I appreciate all the effort. I know that it took a while, but this is all good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you to Catalina Express one more time.
Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you, Audra. Okay. Any comments from the community on this one? Okay. Oral communication, this is an opportunity for people in the...
We need to...
Oh, we got to vote on it? I thought it said just talk about it.
It was their motion.
So I'll entertain a
approve.
motion
I'm sorry.
to approve the recommended changes to the City of Avalon Commuter Subsidy Program as a 1-year pilot.
Second.
Moved and second. Further comment? Call for the vote.
All ayes. And then is it possible that we bring this back a little bit before the year is up, so that if we do have some changes to the program, we can implement it before July 1st, 2020?
Right, like March or something. But just an update, maybe in 6 months on your part.
Oh, yeah, we could just do a 6-month update, how many people have chosen the 4 cards, and then we'll be able to, we're revamping the form that you sign, which is going to allow us to share some more information to try and catch any potential fraud and things like that, just because we want to tighten it up, we're going over the $650,000 every year. So the form will change as well, July 1. So when you fill it out, there'll be another little piece of it that says that, that they're signing, allowing Catalina Express to share information with us. So,
great. Yeah. Thank you.
So that's just a good point. As a side note, I very much appreciate the fact that the Express Terminal on the mainland as well is asking for identification for all travelers. If you have more than one name on a book and you're booking yourself for more than one person. I was surprised during conversations with the Express how much fraud actually happens with the commuter books. And so I very much appreciate you guys cracking down on that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, back to oral communications. An opportunity for people to address the council at this time on non-agenda items. You're limited to 3 minutes and no action will be taken, except when it comes to the library. Mayor.
Ladies and
Excuse
gentlemen.
I'm sorry, hold on. Denise, what were you going to say?
I think Greg Bombard wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up. I'm sorry, Paul.
Oh, please, yes, of course.
Sorry, Paul.
No, just one quick thing. I think this thing will be a nice start to being able to have people who may not be able to take care or take advantage of this program today. Maybe they can finally fit in here somewhat. And if we think we need to continue to move this thing around, we're all for it. I mean, I think it's a nice thing for the community. And it's nice that MTA and everyone else is agreeing.
Yeah.
So the other thing is on refunding. Anybody who has any questions in the community or anything like that, please just come to us and let us know, and we'll be glad to answer your questions in any way. So
All right.
we know that's a question out there, but please feel free to come to either Judy or get a hold of us, let us know, and we'll be glad to call you back and get involved and
Great.
help you understand what the tariff looks like and how it reads.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Janie Hall, 334 Clarissa. I have a question for Greg, actually. I was just on board this week coming over, and a gentleman from the Island Company approached me to sell me tours, and I could get 10% off on any tours I wanted. And I asked if any other tour company was allowed, because it was SCI. And he said no, it was just their group. And it was 80% of the tours, so why would anyone else come anyway? And I'm thinking, isn't this a public carrier? And couldn't anyone come on board and sell their tours? And isn't that somewhat of a distraction of people's peace and quiet, that when they get on board a boat and they want to just relax for the 1 hour that they can and not be sold something? And you have already booths in Long Beach and at each, landing that sell tour tickets, and now we have to have them on board. And he has no idea that I'm a local. So how would they tell? They could just he went to everyone on every passenger, and I thought, now this is something to be questioned, and maybe a public carrier. It would be just overwhelming if everybody who wanted to sell something to you got on board and did that. So, Craig, could you?
Well, I'd be more than happy to explain this. The Island Company came to us some time back and wanted to make a proposal about having a concierge on board to help the people who are coming to the island that, get a few minutes at the terminal to talk to people about what they want to do. But this is not limited by any means to the Island Company. They came forward with a proposal. We've had other people now come forward and ask if they could do something on board with their things, with different operations. And we've said, please just bring a proposal forward. We'll be more than happy to look at it. The Island Company has been doing this for probably the last 7 to 8, maybe 10 years on the Newport boat. So all they wanted to do was continue the program. And we're not trying to do, as Jane talked about there, he's actually just on board. We acknowledge him through the captain's speech that he's on board. And if you have any questions about tours, if you'd like to get out in front of it, get ahead of it, so that when you get to the mole, you know where you're going and you're all set up for your day, because that doesn't always happen that way. We think it's a nice customer service item. If we find that it's, and we've certainly set this up ahead of time, if we find that it's an inconvenience, we can more than We can stop it at any time, but we're looking at it the other way, that the customer who's never been here before needs an opportunity to understand what their day can look like when they've got a bunch of kids with them and the family's there. So this is why we started it. They had a good, nice proposal. I think it's just started here in March. We hope it's a good thing, but we also have told the other tour companies, if they have something they want to present, please come forward. So it's by no means locked up to just one company.
Okay.
And again, I think until the mall gets refurbished and we've got good directional signs and maybe an opportunity for the chamber to have a function out there or somebody to allow people to understand which way to go, I think it's an opportunity to continue the conversation with the customer and get them off on a good start for their day.
Okay.
So that was what this was all about.
Greg, I have a question, and it's an awkward question to ask, and you may choose not to answer it, but is that person actually paying for a full price ticket every day they're on the boat?
They're paying for the tax plus fuel. So it's a wharfage fee and and a partial fare.
Okay.
As long as they're working on board, and we're happy to, again, I want this thing to be a customer service program. I think a concierge on board, much like the cruise lines and everybody else have, so people can be prepared when they get here to do what they want to do. And again, it's not restricted to just one company. And we've made that very clear. So if someone else wants to come forward and propose something, we're open.
I mean, they
and
have
if
to.
we find that, again, it's not working in the way we believe it should, then we will make a change.
So let me ask another uncomfortable question. So the company is actually paying you something to have that person on board, or can anybody sign up and then just pay that? And there must be some remunerations there somewhere.
We do get, like we do when we sell their tickets at through our phone service.
Oh, there's
we do
something.
get a commission.
Okay, yeah, okay. You can tell I'm not in the tourist business per se.
Well, I mean, that's normal procedure with anywhere.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Your timing was good to be here.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions? Call us in.
Okay. We're still on oral communication.
Hi, I'd like to speak on that same matter. Thank you, Mayor, council members, and Mr. Bombard. I think having a concierge is a great idea for customer service, but we are so protective of our visitors here. We have no solicitation policies set into place for so many different aspects when our visitors are here. When I was on the boat, is a big difference between a concierge and someone going and handing a flyer to every single person on the boat. And I just want that point to be made. I mean, if you can have a customer service agent there that's ready to answer questions and book tours and talk to people, that is such a bonus. But if that person is going to be handing a flyer to every single person sitting on the boat, I think that kind of crosses a line, and that kind of makes it more of a solicitation instead of a customer service point. And that was just the one point that I wanted to make. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Let me just say I appreciate that. That isn't what's supposed to be going on, so it's a new program. We're training, or they're training their people. The idea was that we would announce it through the captain's spiel that there is someone on board. If you have any interest, please acknowledge that as he's walking around. He is not, or she is not supposed to be walking to everybody on the boat and handing out a pamphlet. So I appreciate the input. I'll get it back to the folks that we're working with, and we'll change that.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay.
Paul Birchall, Avalon Library. I was actually on the boat last week, and I saw a couple locals sitting there, and I went up to them and I said, "Oh, you should come to the history talk we're doing today, as it happened, and then you should come to story time, and then you should come to knitting." And they said, "Paul, go and sit down." But just to let you know, we had our history talk today. It was awesome. We had 16 people. Wow. Chuck Liddell spoke. Mr. Scott was there. It was really good. One of the visitors was a lady who I talked to over the phone with a reference question about a week ago about some Catalina history aspect. And I said, oh, you ought to come to this. You ought to come to this and see Chuck, the living legend, talk about history. And she came all the way to see the talk. It was awesome. And she came away very happy. This was such a wonderful thing to do. On other notes, our ukulele classes have ended. I believe I've been told that we are willing to continue them. If 3 of the students approach us and say we want to keep going, we'll pay for the teacher, or the friends will pay for the teacher, and we'll keep going. Come see me at the library, come see Suzanne at the library. We'll take your names and we'll set up the continuation of the ukulele class. Also, dear friends, you're going to hear a concert on the 7th. It's going to be 26 miles right here. It's going to be kind of amazing. That's going to be right here at 5 o'clock before the city council meeting, unless you folks make other plans. Our parent-child workshop is wrapping up this Friday. I'm going to continue them as play dates every Friday at 11 for the toddlers set, 0 to 3, and their parents and caregivers. Just a chance to bond, play with toys. That's going to be rather nice. Coming up on Thursday, I've got 20 bobbleheads that people are going to paint. It's intended as a teen craft. You're supposed to envision inspirational things about yourself and sort of create a non-voodoo bobblehead doll of yourself. But I think the littler kids are going to get into it and just make crazy bobbleheads. That'll be fun. Coming up on the 25th, I've got a chemist scientist coming. He's going to do a program, The Magic of Chemistry. We're going to continue our knitting circle. Our Spanish-English language conversation circle has rebooted. We've actually got several students. I love this program. Suzanne is the queen of it. We do people talking in English if you're Spanish speaking. And I'd also like to invite people who speak English and have some Spanish to come and talk Spanish. So it could work both directions. I'm going to do my outer space talk on the 26th about Mars. What else? Coming up in May, I've booked a marionette series for Cinco de Mayo week, and a performance by the puppeteer Ken Frawley at the end of the month. And I also want to do a very early plug for the Summer Discovery Program, which will be starting in June, rather a while. I'm going to have lots of performers and acts, and any kid who reads a book gets an incentive. So that's going to start in the middle of June after school. Summer Discovery Program always gets the kids, hopefully, knock wood, through summer to when school starts again, because they've determined that kids who read during the summer and don't let their grades drop and their attention drop, they do better. And they go to college. And then they get better jobs, and then they do marvelous things. So let's keep all that working. Thank you. Your library is at your service.
Thank you, Paul.
Mayor, may I ask, Paul, can you may not be able to answer, and Amanda, if you could help maybe a little bit. Originally, the remodel of the library was just going to be kind of an inside remodel, and now it seems to be a full-blown rebuild. Do you know?
I have no information on it. I am below that line, I'm sorry to say. I am able to tell you it's going to be the same number of square feet. The redesign is going to be spatially inside. I have no information to tell you about the wall. I'm sorry. Is that an answer?
No, Amanda's going to come up and help. I initially thought it was going to be remodeled, and then all of a sudden it just keeps getting more and more going away.
Right. Initially, they thought they would be able to contain all of the renovation within the exterior walls and the exterior framing. But I think once they got into it, they found some conditions that they needed to go ahead and repair while they had the walls open. And so that's where you've seen some of the exterior coverings come off. They were also replacing some of the windows, which that requires them to reframe it and take some of that stucco off. So it looks, yes, like more than we originally thought, but it's going to be really, really nice once it gets done. So,
Amanda?
It's a building from 1968. So it's needing a big facelift, and that's now turning into like cavities and things like that. So.
Are they sprinkling that building, by the way? Do you know? I would think, maybe.
I think it was sprinkled.
I'm not
I
sure
don't know.
The library wasn't.
Are
I know
installing a
the
fire
sheriff's
sprinkler
building is.
I can find out. I don't know off the top
If
of
they're
my
doing all
head.
that kind of work and it's open,
Yeah,
might
I'll
be a good
find
time
out for
to
you, Richard.
do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And
Judy Greer, Friends of the Library. While we're talking about the library, a lot of people have books and are asking me, what do they do with their books, since the little tiny library is not taking them. So I'm saying, put them on my porch. I will figure it out. My porch is 355 Descanso Avenue. So if you have books that you used to drop off at the library for them to put in our book sale, put them there, and I'll figure out what to do with them.
okay, and I'll ask Dave if that's okay too. Okay, you didn't hear that.
Hi, I was just wondering if anyone had any information about the move from paper to plastic at the gas station, if that was discussed earlier, because in the theme of Audra's work, are we sure we like the only gas station in town has now apparently is only going to take plastic? And what about people who don't have plastic and don't?
Meaning credit cards for those of you.
Credit cards, debit.
Right.
And that are, may get less gas than the $10
minimum
limit on the card, or
I think it would be more appropriate to have the city request that a member of the Island Company come and address the council, because there's been a lot of discussion that you can go, like I was told, you can go and you can do a prepaid card with them, that there's potential, they're saying that you can buy prepaid cars at Vaughn's, but that's not fair because those come with a fee. But I believe there is a way that you can do that for somebody who's wanting to purchase less. But I think it's more appropriate to ask to have city staff reach out and have a member of the Island Company come and address it.
Good idea.
Or otherwise, people that just have cash or less cash could perhaps go to the gas dock, and the city could open that.
Yeah, not so much. Yeah.
No, that gets big thumbs down. Okay, I'm just, thinking about poor people.
You're not alone.
There's actually legislation, and I don't know who introduced it in California, to require all businesses to accept cash, because the result of this statewide has been that it excludes certain people from being able to purchase things. So there's a bill that was introduced to require cash payment.
Oh, and I'm sure somebody from the Island Company just heard this, so that's good. Yeah.
Scott, aren't there some ADA issues?
If you're going to speak, you need to come up to the microphone, Bert, even though you have a loud voice. People want to see your face.
Oh, yeah. I was just asking Scott, aren't there some ADA issues? Americans with Disability Act issues with not having some service member there to help the disabled?
Oh, to fill their cars up with gas?
Yeah, if you're just going.
I don't know.
They do have to have some kind of service there. I don't know if they.
In the government, we had that same problem.
Oh, okay. And Jim, can you respond to that, or do something else? Okay. Okay, so they'll probably hear that comment too about the ADA accessibility. Yes. Okay.
All right. Well, as you've already done such a wonderful job of thanking our fellow community members, I just want to add another chorus to the applause for everyone who came out and helped us with the first of what we hope will be many Care for Catalina community-wide cleanup days. And I just want to hit on a few of the people who really went above and beyond. Absolutely, Dan Hunke and everybody in Public Works deserves all of our praise. There was some very hard work done on their part that day and the days leading up to it. Avalon Rotary planted over 1,000 seedlings along the waterfront from Kanabe Park all the way out to Casino Arch, or to the casino. I think it was to Casino Arch, but I don't want to sell it short if it went further than than that, and City Public Works interspersed that in the days leading up to it with some large container items that were too big for the volunteers that day. A couple of the others to acknowledge, we had Avalon Lions Club simultaneously hosting cleanup and some repair work in the interior. We had Avalon Beautiful, City of Avalon, as I already mentioned, Catalina Island Conservancy, Catalina Island Company, the Rotary Club, Lloyd's of Avalon, Cat Bev, Catalina Island Golf Cart Rentals, Chet's Hardware, and the local teen center, as well as Avalon VFW, who in one way or another were represented or donors or contributors in their time, talent, and efforts. And I know some of you mentioned the Boys and Girl Scouts, but what a golden opportunity that was for us to instill in them the value of that sort of effort every day. And one of our parting comments to each of them was, every time they see something on the ground from now on, please take the 2 seconds, bend over, and pick it up. I want to reiterate what the city manager said about cigarette butts. Hands down, that's the item I picked up the most of. And I didn't work right along the waterfront and along the bars. I was up on Stagecoach and Chimes Road. And you mentioned earlier the fire chief brush clearing allowance. I'm going to tell you, it was frightening what I was picking up that was laying in the brush. And they hadn't even been stamped out.
Yeah.
They had been flicked. And were in the brush. And so I don't know what exactly we can do about that, but it's frightening, the risk that we face. Just a couple. Am I already out of time? Oh, okay. Just a couple other things that are not related to that day's events. We have launched just recently some new reporting software as part of our new website redesign that hopefully is improving and will continue to improve as we fine-tune it, the readability of our visitor stats reports. I know they've been a little grainy in their focus on the last two reports. That's an open ticket with the software company. They're improving upon the quality of those graphs, but they're much more readable on my screen before I send them out to you all. We've hosted 4 film scouts in as many weeks, all of which are large crew and all of which will bring multiple overnights to us between now and summer. We've hosted over 40 members of the media in the recent 2 months, including in partnership with the Catalina Express, the Voyagers group that were here, mostly social media, but also traditional media influencers. And that's really starting to spill out. We've been seeing stuff on television, and I believe there's going to be something airing tomorrow morning on KTLA. If you've got your TV on bright and early, you should see something nice there. We've also hosted, in partnership with the Los Angeles Convention and Visitors Bureau, a group of Chinese FITs, actually those who plan FIT travel. So think of group travel, but where they're individual travelers. That's what FIT means, foreign individual travelers. So they book through a group facilitator, but travel on their own. And just one more reminder, we're, once again, we took a year off. We're going to do this probably every other year. We're hosting our Mixer on the Pier on the 25th, which will be sort of a way of kicking off summer with a lot of our attractions, setting up tables and telling everybody who wants to know about what they've got to offer this summer. So, thank you.
So, on another issue, there seems like there's going to be a lot of business changes and that kind of thing, and I don't know if working with you all that we do some ribbon cuttings, because we either between change of ownership or just...
Right. If I had anything cemented, I would have announced it. I'm in play right now with the Conservancy regarding the Trailhead Center. As soon as we have a for sure date, we'll be doing something with them. CIVR is also getting their ducks in a row as far as their new location. I met with the manager of the Zane Grey, and we're working on those plans. So I'm trying. It's
great! And there's a few more coming up. There'll be the Endemic Seafood Restaurant, and anyway, Mika Seed is changing hands and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so they're all on my radar. I just don't have anything concrete to share right yet.
Great. I don't want to miss those opportunities to congratulate people for moving forward. Yes. Exactly. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. And I would like to just make a comment. There's been discussion over the last few months about a float in the Rose Parade, and I know Jim was really good about it. Dan got a whole bunch of information talking to people and float makers and whatever. So I think maybe moving forward next year, I think that's something we wanted to consider strongly with donations. So anyway, so for those of you who knew about it, it's been put on hold. We won't be in the 2020, but hopefully we can shoot for January 2021. So, and I placed a call into Harvey Hyde because he was the one that talked to Richard and myself about it and said, what do you think? And then we got excited. So anyway, so hopefully going forward. Okay. Any other oral communication? Okay. Consent calendar.
There are eight items on the consent calendar. When we get to number 5, I'm going to have Scott read we've put some additional wording on that First Amendment to that contract. Councilmember Cassidy had commented a couple times she wanted to make sure there was clarification in their contract about the leased moorings as soon as the franchise went away, that those would go away. And I want to just really make it clear on the amendment. So, and then when we get to number 8, I guess I'm going to pull that because at 3 o'clock today, the bid's closed for that project, and Mr. Greenlaw will report out on that. So you'll have the information before you vote. So we have minutes from April 2nd of 2019 regular city council meeting. We have warrants for disbursement between the months of March 23rd and April 5th. For a total of $851,630.73. Number 3 is to make the findings that renting and shipping over a crane was required to be able to place a mobile office trailer in the only spot available at the wastewater treatment plant, and ratify prior actions of the city manager in authorizing additional funds for an expenditure of $18,412.47. Number 4 is to adopt the resolution adopting a list of projects for fiscal year 1920 funded by SB 1, which is the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017. Number 5 is authorizing the city manager to execute an amendment to the semi-exclusive Shoreboat franchise and Shoreboat services provider agreement, allowing the harbor master to assign Catalina Coastal Tours a 4th leased mooring and to assign a 5th leased mooring if and when it is requested in writing by CCT, and the 5th mooring will be assigned upon request only and if and when a leased mooring is available. And Scott, would you read the...
Yeah, condition number 4 is upon termination or dissolution of the semi-exclusive Shoreboat franchise and Shoreboat services provider agreement, all terms of the contract will be dissolved and the leased moorings will be returned to the city.
And then number 6 is to authorize expenditures for the upgrades to the Via Casino Arch for a not to exceed amount of $70,000. 2 is to amend the fiscal year budget by decreasing the general fund capital improvement expenditure account by $30,000 and increasing the harbor capital improvement expenditure account by $70,000, and to ratify prior actions of staff in rejecting the previously submitted bids, and to authorize the city manager or the designee to award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder for the Via Casino Arch restoration project, and to execute that contract. 7 is to receive and file the general plan 2013 to 2018 status report and the housing element annual progress report, and direct staff to submit the general plan status report to the Governor's Office of Planning and Research and the housing element progress report to the Housing and Community Development. And do you want Bob to talk about number 8 first? Or?
So 3, 6, and then you said that we're going to discuss 8.
I was going to give you some additional information.
I'd like to pull 3 and 6, please.
Okay, 3.
Yeah, 3 and
6. And I'm sorry, what was the other one? 8 is already pulled.
Okay. Council, what's your pleasure? Is there a motion?
I'll move approval of consent calendar items 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7.
Second. A second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Call for the vote.
All ayes.
So
I asked to pull number 3, not because I want to air laundry. I'm just concerned about process and about allocation of resources and oversight and supervision. I got a number of calls and it was embarrassing to discuss it. And I don't think that this is the kind of thing that should happen. So I'm assuming that you asked for a report about how this happened. and that you were taking steps, because it seems to me that we need some reorganization in terms of the workload and the allocation, and that's the only thing I have to say about that. So I'll move staff approval, unless there's somebody else that wants to chime in.
Second.
Yeah. No, that was concerning too. I did get a few complaints on that also. And I don't know how that fell through the cracks, but it did.
You can either comment to it or
was a
not.
big one.
No comment. I mean, I've got staff that's learning, and I'm teaching them as hard as I can. Besides, if you really want to look at our project list, I mean, it's up toward 50 right now.
It shouldn't have
And it could be
happened,
some, yeah, it shouldn't happen, but I tell you, we're learning, and the biggest thing you need to look at is their value. And there's a value at the end of the day of what we did out there. And yes, and there was a situation out there where we're operating with a full staff next to electric panels that Parsec said that we need to vacate that area for the office. And so my staff and we tried to do the best job we could to get the best unit, and some things were overlooked as far as the size of it, making it around the plant. And so
Okay, that's good.
that's the story, but it still has great value when we look at the end of the day, and it's really going to help us when we go put remodeling of that plant, when we have to make some changes, because that will be where we can house that staff.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And call for the vote?
Anybody second?
Oh, sorry.
I'll second if we didn't get, did we get a second?
Yeah, I think we should.
Councilmember Olson.
Okay,
Did we all vote?
I did.
Councilmember Olson, I didn't get your vote. Oh, okay, I'll ask.
Word earlier.
All right, now item number...
Item 6 is the Vio Casino Arch restoration, and I appreciate that you've had a lot on your plate. I would just like to pull this item from the list of things that Mr. Greenlaw has to worry about, and we'll look at it again as part of the budget. It doesn't make sense to me that we're going to do this project now that the season's here. It just is what it is. We're not going to have any storms. It's not going to get further damaged, but I think we need to reevaluate this, because the recommendation is to more than double the amount that we had allocated, and until we look at the full budget, I think it'd be kind of silly to just do this blindly. The project's not going to take place until probably October and November anyway.
The only, not the only reason, but I concur with your request. I had a conversation with the city manager. I do know that I had expressed at one of the council meetings that I would love to see this as a service project from perhaps Lions Club participating, or at least reaching out to find out. I know that there is some of the work that couldn't be done based on safety and whatnot, but perhaps after the season we can reach out and maybe try to reduce the amount of costs that it would take to have this refurbished.
Okay, and what we were trying to do, this is an historic structure that everybody knows. Everybody comes to see here, and we were treating it as such. And that's why we were looking to get...
Actually, it wasn't even part of the budget. I'm the person that said I wanted it to be part of the budget. So it wasn't Public Works who was advocating for this, or staff. And it's been a year and it hasn't happened. So let's take a look and see, do we really want to spend another $40,000, or is there some other way that we can address this?
And like, one of my concerns would be, being in the storm situation, do we get any relief from any of the storm for that project? Or any money coming towards our way?
Any emergency funding?
From
We
that?
haven't received an answer yet on the list of damaged properties. We have filed for that, yes, but we haven't received any.
So the arch
information.
is included in that list from the...
I believe, yes.
So that would hopefully...
Yeah, that might help.
And it's mainly the ocean side of the arch was the main part, correct?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not in good shape. So what would you like to see done with that arch? Just leave it as it is for summer?
Can you just throw a coat of paint on it? Or there's a lot of, I haven't looked at it. Is it really prone?
Well, my concern was that the bid said that it proposed a 45-day period to do the project. So you're into the heart of the summer. That just doesn't make sense to me.
And at this time, is it a safety issue right now? Or can we hold off on it?
It's not, I mean, it's an
been there for a while.
appearance
It's been there for a
issue.
while.
And it's not like we're going to get a big
Right.
a big
South
storm
Florida.
right now.
Is staff proposing to do this work, or are you proposing to bid it out?
It's all bid.
No, we bid it out, and we received two bids. One was in the $60,000 range, and one was in the $80,000 range.
No, one was 70 and one was 59. I looked at them today.
60,000, so
59
59, you know.
and 70.
And then
74.
it was 79.9, so.
And then what is the impact to the harbor fund by this increase? I mean, it says that it's going to increase by 70,000, but where does that put us as an amendment to the budget from what we had originally?
In my discussions with Matt Baker today, we have sufficient funds in there right now. So, I mean, there's competing projects and whether this is the highest priority, but all I did when I put this project there, I reacted to the budget. And then I put the project out to bid, went out and sought the best specs for it that put it back to what a historic structure would require, and then put some epoxy paint on it. So it's right adjacent to the salt. And so all of that costs money. And then got a estimate from somebody that was here on the island that would be able to do that expert work. And that's what got us in that $30,000 range. But once it moves into being a prevailing wage project with all the requirements of a public project, it doubled.
And let's say it was approved today. When would they be able to start to work?
So, because the bids were not perfect, and so that was one of the problems where I could because that was why at the last meeting I pulled it, because it was immediately we were going to start work.
Right.
So it does hamper our ability to get there and get the full project done. If we do get somebody that's local to do it, they could do it in 2 mopes. They could do the back side of it right now and get that done, and then they'd finish up everything in the fall. But, so
So you're proposing to put out a bid as an alternative? That somebody would come in and propose
Yes.
alternative to do the back only?
Well, it just really depends on that time, because I'm going to run into the summer season. And so, but somebody would have to be able to mow twice, but still be able to get that worst side done and get that done correctly. But every time to set one of these things up, it's not free either. I mean, it's my time, it's other staff time, it's the effort to get it published again. So every time we stop, it's not good either. But I can understand if we don't have the funds. If we just don't have the will to do it, then I can go put some paint on it. But if it's the funds, then I can understand that.
I mean, there's a lot of different layers to this. This meeting is not the meeting to hash it out, but I have some real concerns about how we've been budgeting and how many amendments we do to a budget in any given year. And we are 3 months from starting a new budget year, and we've already had 4 or 5 amendments in the last couple meetings. And that's uncomfortable to make those decisions. With this one, I understand that we're well underway with this. You've already got your bid proposals far enough along. I mean, we did hear about this quite a bit at different meetings and different comments made. We already have enough trauma areas in town with caution tape and cones here and cones there. If we're, and I don't mean offense when I say this, but if we're not relying on Public Works to get this project done before the season, and we actually have another company coming in that can allocate the resources to get it done, then I would be willing to move forward to get the project done. But that's where the question of, is Public Works going to do the work? Because you guys are way overloaded.
But again, you said you already received 2 bids, and you could assign that one person with the $69,000, $70,000.
No, I'm going to receive another set of bids, so they're perfected. I don't want to have them challenged.
From them or from somebody else?
Well, they're free to bid again.
Yeah, they're free to bid again. And they're likely to bid again.
Okay, so then my question is, Bob, that process, in and of itself, and to come back to the council would take?
Right now, I'm asking for authorization to move forward the minute I receive those bids.
And I'm just going to speak up about that. I do not like spending money, public money. With the state of California has an extensive public bid contract statute that is designed to make sure that the public knows how their money is being spent. And I'm not saying that you don't have more expertise than I do, but I think the process requires transparency. And I am not going to vote for any delegation of the city council's responsibility to review bids when they come in and participate in the determination of what is the lowest responsible bidder. I'm just going to vote no on all of them, because I don't think that it's the appropriate thing to do. I think the public deserves to know what we're doing with their money.
And we do try to be as totally transparent. We report back. Just realize that every step of the way, and you're very short staff, every step of the way that we do that, and every time I come back, it's going to slow down and limit the number of projects that we're doing.
Right.
And all I'm trying to do is streamline it. And that's what every step that I do is I try to use my expertise, my experience to streamline delivering.
And so if you want to call a special city council meeting, I'm happy to come to a special meeting. If that's on the day that you would be awarding the contract, we would have a special council meeting and award the contract.
And then I'm going to go back to my question. If you went out to bid, what is the time frame? Because if it
what I would
puts us in
see is
June-
if it was awarded with somebody locally here,
right,
that there is a potential that we could get the backside finished
by
that third week in May, before we get to Memorial Day.
So there was a local bidder.
There was a local bidder.
They indicated that they were able to do the project in 15 days. That was the low bidder.
And then, so why are we talking about going back out to bid? I'm confused.
The bids were not perfect. So they had some errors in them.
Oh, so again,
In the
if we
form,
go
yes.
back to the bid thing, and we say, yes, you can go back out to bid, that process takes, what, 30 days published in the paper, and then 3 weeks for them to respond, and so you're 1.5 to 2 months
So
away?
the minimum required says 10 days and then 2 publishings. 10 days and 2 publishings.
Okay, and then if we don't hit it
And it
right
has to
on
be
the...
5 days from 1 publishing before the bids open. That's by our city code.
Okay, and not to put pressure on you, but is that new bid thing already done? Not to rush you, but I want to be realistic.
Tomorrow
but-
I would have it, have it sent to the paper to be advertised, so Friday it would be in the paper. And then the next Friday it would be in the paper, and then I would open it.
I just don't want you to be stuck, Bob, where all of a sudden, and then they go, oh, yeah, but no, and then we're doing this starting in June or July. I mean, and there's always a fear that some things just don't come off like, nothing comes off perfectly from day to, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't want that place to look like hell in the middle of, at any time at summer with more, like she says, what Cindy says, more caution tape and more cones, and that's all. So, Ole, do you have a comment?
If we approve this concept, you'd award the bid on the 30th of April, the 1st of May, and the job will be done by the 15th of May, 16th of May?
Well, there's document, let's say the end of May. It's probably more realistic.
Let's say before Memorial Day is what we would hope, and which is not the end of May, it's a little bit before.
A week earlier.
And that's really what we're trying to do with all of Front Street projects.
I
We're
understand.
trying to get them cleaned up. We had a bad winter, and so
Yeah.
now every bit of effort, that if we're not, knocking weeds down, which is the other main piece that we need to do,
Right.
is we're on Front Street, and everything else is being put on hold, and then we'll be back there doing those activities after we get done with that. And that's so the visitors will have a good experience, because from what I was hearing throughout this whole year, hey, we need to put more effort out there.
I know.
It's here, it's delivered,
Yeah.
and
I
I'm
know.
delivering it.
I know you are, but I don't, even though you have that whole chairlift fiasco, which was not your fault at all.
No.
I just don't want us to come in and say, okay, Bob, what's the update, what's the holdup? And if moving that till after the summer gives you some relief, that's great, but if it's not gonna give you any relief, I mean, you always have something that's
something else will fill the spot.
Yeah, I
I'd-
guess
I'd
that's the-
rather get the back wall done before summertime.
Yeah.
Because it looks like hell.
Yeah, it does.
I think that we will be able to accomplish that.
And I'm willing to come to a
Councilmember.
council meeting on the 1st of May.
I'd be willing to come to a council meeting on the 1st of May.
Me too.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you make it the second? I might not be home. No. Okay.
Okay. So in terms of the bid package and what you're looking to do, I saw that Matt, the local contractor, had proposed to dig down 12 inches
Yeah,
under the walls, which made a lot of sense. I'm assuming you're going to include that as a mandatory part of the work. And then the other thing I thought, and maybe things have changed since, I mean, it's been quite a while since I've been involved in this, but we used to designate in our bids what the prevailing wage categories were that we expected to see on the project. And I didn't see that.
You don't need to publish them with them as long as you point them to where they're at, so it's on the DIR website now. So-
Right, but the actual classifications, because for instance, you don't need a master stucco person to do the
No.
work that's proposed there.
No, it's all
You
under
know,
it's under a painting classification.
right.
Okay.
And,
so it's-
and
that's
Okay.
what it-
the thought is, and I don't know any city that specifically does that, because if you list the categories
And you're wrong.
and you're
Okay.
wrong,
I
then
just didn't-
it's
I
the
couldn't
only thing that
remember.
the city can be liable for is if we say if we
It
miss
just
the
was
category.
hard to believe that $30,000 in prevailing wages was the difference between the original estimate of 30 and the 60 low bid that we got.
Well, then it's the bonding.
No, I mean, the
Yeah,
bid
so-
said $48,000 for labor for 3 guys. Or 4 guys working 15 days. It just seemed like a ton of money. So, I don't know, maybe when we rebid it, there'll be reconsideration or something.
And one option that the council always has, it's my favorite provision of the Public Contracts Code, is if you go out to bid and they bring the bids back, you can reject all bids, and by 4/5 vote, you can enter into a contract to have it done in the way that you wanted, as long as it's lower. So you have the option, as long as it's lower.
To take away prevailing wage?
Right, and
No,
I
no,
would
no, you
like
can
to
never
see-
take-
I would like to see as an alternate bid just to do the back, because it could be that come the fall, things won't be as crazy, and we'd have some time on Public Works to do the remaining part of the work, so that it wouldn't be a $70,000 project, but that somebody could get out there and fix what the boaters are going to be looking at, I think would make sense. And that would resolve my budget and council members.
Okay.
McGugan's angst about amending budgets at this juncture.
Okay. Do we know?
So how do we form that
You have a
into
motion.
All right, well, I can make the motion. I'll move that we ratify the prior action of staff in rejecting the previously submitted bids, authorize them to issue another RFP with the improvements that we've discussed, including an alternate to do only the backside. In other words, that the contractor would submit a separate bid just to do the backside.
Right.
I think that we probably want to tighten up the 45 days when the project has to be completed.
I'll just put an end date on it.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And that it's agreed that the staff will be bringing back the bids at a special meeting if necessary to the city council.
And then if they don't make the end date, is that where we fine them so much?
Yeah, we have a liquidated
there's a
damages
provision.
provision
It's always
in
there.
our,
Okay.
in our bid. And the one thing is, we've added a bid protest procedure now, because what you don't want to do is open the bids, and if you award it that day, and we've got a 5-day bid protest, then it's ugly. So anyway, it'll be...
Sometime after.
It'll be as quickly as possible that we can get this going without, we understand the goal is to get the project done before summer.
See, there's already a delay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further comments? Call for the vote. Thank you, Bob.
All ayes?
Councilmember Albers, can I ask for clarification when you said we possibly have another meeting for it? That's not I'm not sure what.
If necessary.
If
I mean, it may
necessary.
coincide with our next city council meeting.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Should be in there for, what's that, the second?
Yeah, we have one on May 7th.
Well, that's not me first.
But if you need us earlier, I think there was an indication that
Yes.
city council would.
Yes.
would show up.
Yes.
And I did want to just comment that we do follow the purchasing policy that's in our municipal code. So I don't want the public to think that we're not being transparent. I respect what you're saying, Pam, because we at all times want to be transparent with all our actions and spending the public funds. So I just want to clarify that we do follow our municipal code as far as our purchasing policy and the bid procedure.
Right, and I'm not suggesting you're not. It's just the final decision
So
is
that
one that
message
is
was
generally
received,
made
so-
by the city council, and I'm seeing increasingly requests that we delegate that authority, and I'm just telling you, I'm not going to vote for it.
Message was received.
Okay.
All right.
Number 8, right?
We're back to you, item 10.
Yeah.
8.
8.
Eight. Oh,
We
yes,
pulled 8
field
because we
piping.
got the bid results today.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so
Okay.
this is for the fuel float, okay? And so the last step in the fuel float is actually putting the gas station component. So our own crew over the last few years had built the fuel float. It's really a good product that they built, and it's ready to go. And all the moorings are in. So the last step is to put the dispenser, which you gave us authority to purchase, and we purchased those. And now we need to have an actual somebody that can do that type of work, that is certified in that type of work, put the gas station components together. We cannot do that with city staff. Okay, so we went out and we bid the work, and today we received the bids. There was 2 bids. The low bid was Wayne Perry, the one that actually built the station, components of the fuel dock station. That was at $113,000. The other bid was from B&T at $126,267. Both of those, it's higher than what we had estimated, but that's the type of environment that bid environment that we are in right now. Contractors are very busy to get things done. You're going to have to pay those dollars. So Wayne Perry was the only one that came over. It was not a mandatory pre-bid, but they were the only one that came over and viewed every element that we had, and they're on board to get the work done right away. So as soon as we could issue a contract, what they would do would be to install the gas dispensers down at the yard, working in unison with our harbor maintenance crew, and then harbor maintenance would put in the grading over the well that runs down the middle that holds all the piping for the dispensers, and then the fuel float would be ready to be installed in the water. And then one of the things that we are waiting for right now is the permits, or have already been application made to LA County Public Works, but we're waiting for those to come through. We're hoping that it would be toward the end of this month. We'd see that as soon as we do get the permits, then we can have it inspected. We can actually complete the work before the permits are in hand, but we need to have, before we can open the station, we would have to have the permits in hand. So our anticipation would be, if we followed this schedule, to have the fuel float in the water before Memorial Day, but you'd have the dispensers bagged, and they wouldn't be operational. And then we would, as soon as we receive the permits, then we would make them operational. And you see there's a schedule that we did submit to you in the report. So the recommendation because there was $100,000 that we requested, we're requesting that go to 120, just to make sure that we have a little leeway to and award that bid to Wayne Perry with that $113,000 bid price. The $45,000 that was rebudgeted from last year still stays constant, but what you see increase is that $55,000 going to $75,000 from the harbor fund. And so that's what we would use to make sure that we're at that 120. Not saying that we need the whole 120, but we don't want to come back.
Is this for 2 floats?
This is for 1 float.
For 1 float only?
1 float.
1 float? Okay. And how did it go last year without that float? Just out of curiosity. Did we?
Well, the reports that, when I talked to the attendants there,
Just a
they
question.
said, you know, of course, they're smaller boats that
Sure,
probably
yeah.
have an easier time pulling up to a fuel float, but they said that they could service everybody with, you know, what we
Whatever
had.
size boat.
Yes. So you want to read what?
Sure, we did do a quick analysis of what the fuel cells were during the time period in which we had the float in, which the last time the full time was in was 2013, when we had the float in. And in 2013, from May to October, our sales were 58,000 for unleaded. And for the same period in 2018, it was 48,000. So a $10,000 difference.
Dollars or gallons?
And then in 2014, last time was 2014, we had the float in. May to November was 57,000, and same period in 2018 was 45,000. So we had a little bit of a decrease. There may be other factors that contribute to that decrease, so we don't want to say it's exclusively because of the float or not because of the float, but those are two considerations that we had. So we do think there would be some increase in sales because of the float, although costs for the fuel is kind of built in with our current operations and everything, so there may be some cost recovery with the float, so we didn't calculate out how long it would take to build up a cost recovery for that float in. But I think the big difference in the budget was prevailing wage and having a contractor do the work versus force account, which I think was originally assumed could be done and had been done historically.
So Jordan, your staff report notes that we're going to need to have the installation and uninstallation inspected. So I take it that just the float is removed, but all of this piping that's going to be installed as part of this project, they just have to ensure that nothing's leaking or...
Yes.
And who would be doing that inspection?
So we could have a contractor would have to, a licensed contractor would have to do that inspection. It would be submitted to LA County, who oversees the permit. So LA County Public Works is who we're submitting our permit request to. They're the ones that require a licensed contractor. They're the ones that have these guidelines. And so basically every time our understanding so far is when we disconnect the lines and reconnect the lines, that's when they say, hey, that's a new installation, you have to evaluate it, which is also something that we hadn't necessarily done. We're going to get clarification on those when we finish the installation of this float and have county permit it and do the testing. Those are some of the details that we're going to zero in with them and say, hey, you know, what exactly do you need from us each year, so we can know that ahead of time and just say, we already have some inspections occur at the fuel dock, as part of our annual requirements anyway. So if this is something that we could just fold in with that effort, you know, hopefully it wouldn't be too much of a cost. But that is the cost of doing business following all the rules and regulations.
Did we get a whole bunch of complaints because we don't have that gas station there, JJ, in the back room? Here comes our harbor master right behind you, Bob.
No, we didn't get a whole lot of complaints because they were just finishing. It was part of the finishing up of the fuel dock pier. We never got them. That doesn't mean they didn't complain. You know, they just realized that they dropped the bucket down. They put the money in the bucket, and away they go. We went with one float this year to see how that works, because even though we had two in the previous years, I'm not really convinced that we need the expense for the second one. And plus, the turn basin back there created a little issue with the two floats in there. So it's going to be one of those wait and see what happens. But the people boaters tend to, you know, be pretty patient and stuff. I mean, it will be easier for the smaller boats to be able to pull up around the backside and everything else on the larger boats. But if the dock's full, the little boat's going to go to the pier anyway. So, and then the big boat's going to have to wait. So it'll be interesting to see just how much. Did that answer any question? Or
Well, it did. I just wondered, you know, you're sitting here talking about not spending money and spending money. Is it something that we really need? You're a boater, you know, and we got Janny in the audience still. So just help us out here.
It's certainly much more
I would think
difficult for the
sailboats
smaller
and
boats,
sailboats,
but,
right?
Sailboats and smaller boats, it's far easier. I mean, but
Yeah.
if it's not there, it is what it is. I mean, they get.
I mean, we
fuel.
all made do last year, so it was, you know, it is what it is. But I like the idea of trying to do the one float now for this year and see how it goes, to see if we need
Right.
a second float or not. Because it'll be a stark difference having the float back. It'll be more on our minds of, wow, this is easier.
Well, and plus this permitting process, it takes time. I mean, dealing with the county, it just takes time. So they have to.
The other part of it too is that it takes a lot longer to fuel when you're pulled up, when you're moored up against the pier versus to the dock. So there's a lot of kind of waiting around and waiting for your turn, depending on how many boats are there.
But for Borders calling us saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe your fuel dock is so messed up," I haven't got anybody that says that. So I think they just realize it and they look at it and they, okay, I is where I is.
Okay. All right, so council, Bob, did you want to make a comment? Or you just, council?
All right, I'm going to move staff recommendation with the change that the not to exceed amount will be 120. I take it it's still going to come from the harbor fund, the balance. And given the fact that there's been some discussion about the bidders and the amount of the bid, I'm willing to delegate the authority to actually make the award.
I'll second.
Who did you get, Gabby, for the second?
I had Councilmember Olson as the
Okay, already.
Sorry, Cindy.
And just so you know, you don't need to delegate the authority on this one because you actually have the two bids.
Oh, that's true.
And
well,
so-
but we haven't looked at them. I'm assuming somebody's going to do a little more of a background check
Yes.
in terms of responsible bidder.
Right,
We don't have that information.
Exactly, and in terms of the motion, obviously, this is, we won't sign the agreements until the time for any bid protest has expired.
Right.
Okay, let's call for the vote.
All ayes?
Thank you. Okay, item number 10. Step on up, Bob.
Okay.
I know.
Change of gears. Okay. Now we're back as we had advertised that after 60-plus days here, we were going to be talking about the parking trial that we had at Vaughn's, where we switched up the parking on Beacon, Sumner, Metropole, Catalina, to a lot of one-hour parking, and then we took away some of the restrictions on Metropole, and then we also worked on the truck turning movement backing into the new Vaughn's from Catalina and extended up some limited no parking for a certain amount of hours there at Catalina and Beacon. So we installed all those, and we did put a survey out. So just for the folks at home, I'm going to read a little bit here of the staff report just so quickly they have some background information. So October 16th and November 19th meetings, we held the parking discussions on this parking to change the parking in the 200 and the lower 300 blocks of Sumner and Catalina and the 300 block Beacon Avenue. For this trial, the lower blocks of Sumner and Catalina and 300 block of Beacon were designated all one-hour parking. However, note that existing designations in these areas were not changed. No parking, loading, half hour, etc. were all remained. The residents in the trial area were issued residential parking permits, which allowed them to park on their block and street all day, and that was one of the major concerns why we did this. And small stretches along the 300 blocks of Sumner and Catalina were also modified to accommodate the Vaughn's delivery truck as well as Vaughn's street parking. So we had spent another whole segment at a meeting talking about that delivery and proving that was a preferred alternative with all the delivery vehicles. The goal of the trial was to evaluate both the parking and traffic flow congestion, both for Vaughn's and the overall downtown area, and determine any modifications to the active transportation design for access to Vaughn's and the overall downtown area. So the information on that parking trial was posted on the city's website at www.cityofavalon.com/parking. So to help collect community feedback, Jordan Moreau of the Public Works put together a survey, and that's included in the packet. And so what you see is some of the results of that survey. So you can see that this is typically a lot of questions. Realize that this didn't have, a scientific survey. It was just a bunch of questions we put out there to the public, and it seemed like there was a certain kind of group of answers at the start, and maybe there was maybe a few disgruntled people at the start, but then as we moved into it, we started getting some more feedback on like both ends of the range of what we would expect here. So, like question one, the experience has the access to the parking of 200 blocks of Catalina and Sumner and the 300 block of Beacon changed since the trial started. So you can see that, the 50% of that responded about the same. And then we had some bigger hits on much better or much worse. So it's kind of an even balanced opinion on that. And some of that much worse answers were some of the earlier answers that we got. So we were thinking that there was some of the people that folks just seeing some of the change happen, and then once people saw kind of the market there for. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I was going to let you finish that comment. I was having a really hard time grasping this because I couldn't find in here how many people actually took the survey.
19.
19 people?
Yeah, so that's not a scientific sampling.
Oh.
30.
30.
Oh,
30.
sorry.
Wow.
Where, was that in the report? Because I am so...
No.
I'm sorry if I missed that.
I didn't see it either.
It was not.
Okay.
So 30.
Okay,
Yeah.
so but it's data. It's data, and it's somebody that took the time to do the survey, and so they took the 10 or 15 minutes to do this.
So I wrote in big letters in a tribute to the Game of Thrones, summer is coming. I think anybody within 3 days of the Vons being open could have figured out in the winter it's not going to be a problem with parking. I applaud the changes that we made. Definitely they will help. But summer is coming, and it's going to be a cluster. Yep. I mean, I don't know any other way to describe it. The the 5-stop thing, people now are not obeying the stop signs. People still roll through them. People aren't using signals. So I think at a very minimum, I would like to see a sign on each of the stop signs that says this is a 5-way stop. You must use signals or hand signals. Something, because I've seen pedestrians almost get hit. So, I'm sure there's an intellectually entertaining thing, and somebody got to use the statistics course they took in college, but for winter, none of this information was really very edifying for me. I could pretty much go to Vons and see what was going on as everybody else did.
No, I know that. Well, and when this trial first started, I know law enforcement was spending time on that Upper Beacon piece, and I really haven't noticed them much, and maybe if you could give us a little bit more support on stopping people and I use my hand signals in a golf cart, but people don't use their hand signals rarely, and so any support you could give us there would be nice.
Sure. The issues that we're having with the new Vons and traffic, we've had some people pull up into the parking lot and just park behind people that are already parked legally shopping, and then they come out to leave. They can't get out. We get there, the person's unlicensed driver, has warrants for their arrest, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. We're doing a lot of enforcement there at the crosswalk, or at the corner of Beacon and Sumner, because just like Pam said, there's people everywhere. There's people walking cattywampus across the intersection, and then we had a fire truck is going out to a fire alarm call, and I actually got out, stopped everybody to let the fire truck go through real quickly so they could get to the call. Yeah. But
I would say on average that I am in that intersection probably no less than 6 times a day, a couple times by foot and a couple times, running around deliveries and stuff. It is absolutely Thunderdome. And the number one issue, I don't mind saying, is lack of respect from the drivers in this community. It is not rental cars all the time. Rental cars, we can't even get them to go down the street because they're too busy looking at the map. So it is so frustrating. And there have been times recently where I have pulled out and I have told somebody to stop because everyone else has gone 3 or 4 times. And, you know, it's frustrating. We all live in this community and we all need to follow the rules, and we all need to be respectful of everyone else. I pushed for it years ago. I tortured our poor city council and our public works director at the time that I wanted a 4-way stop on the bottom of those stop signs. They finally put them up and they did absolutely nothing to help mitigate the concerns. So the concerns on that corner were far great as they are now. They're just as bad from years and years and years ago. The people would go through that intersection to go to Vaughn's when it was on Metropole. So I don't necessarily think it's only fair to blame that on Vaughn's. The part that Vaughn's plays in it is it adds one more section it adds one more stop to make it a 5-way stop. So my request would be to our community, you know, pay attention and be respectful drivers. Be respectful of when you get to the intersection, look around like we're licensed to do, and, you know, choose your option to go when it's your turn.
Right.
And actually stop at the stop signs.
Yes, ma'am, I completely agree with you. I can tell you once the lines get put on the surface, it will help law enforcement a great deal, because then we'll be able to cite people for not walking in the crosswalk. They're walking cattywampus across carrying a thing of beer, blah, blah, blah. We'll be able to handle that. So that will help us a great deal in enforcement, keeping the public safe in that intersection.
Right. Turn signals is, I experience by every walk of life in this town, that they don't put on use their turn signals. And then you have the people in the golf carts that don't know how to turn them off, so it's always on, which is really, they go the opposite way. That's also a little problem. I did have one more question, and I know Jordan was just in the room. Oh, there he is. Hi. Which of the following best describes you in Avalon? Is there a correlation with the green color full-time resident to the colors with the statistics? You know, and then the blue is the full-time resident. So is that just, because, I mean, if you're looking at the full-time resident that responded, and then you look at much better, I appreciate their concern more than I do somebody who just got off the boat and is doing something. But is that just a coincidence, or was that intentional?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay, see in the back it says full-time resident is that green bar.
Yeah.
And then on your survey, the much better, is that by those full-time residents, or that just happens?
Oh, no, that's just the color coding of the graph.
Okay.
So you could individually go through the survey and look at each person's individual response, and then I could back that out and say, like, how many full-time residents. Yeah. So I could get a gauge on who says they're a full-time resident, said what other responses.
Right.
This is just a compilation of the responses per response, not based on how they answered this question. But we could do a quick evaluation, or we could do that evaluation for parking trial too if we move forward with that. We could have that as a condition.
Okay.
Could we also somehow, I know your answer is going to be we blanketed this everywhere, but I actually did not know that there was a survey. And I know that there was information about the trial posted on the web and whatnot. I missed the survey, and I would love to have some sort of email or something that I could forward out to members of the community that I know talk to us as council members on a regular basis that I know didn't participate in this. Just for the next trial, if you do another survey, something that we can forward to people to tell them this is what you need to do to help us get data.
Yeah, we can absolutely look at any and all other avenues to disseminate the information and get it out to people. So we could do a blast through the chamber if they're interested. We could post flyers up at Vaughn's. We could do any other avenue that you'd be interested in or that we could identify. Totally.
I think also through the, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but also through, maybe we could do a blanket through the chamber or whatnot, because it does affect others besides just right there in the intersection, and it affects some of the business owners in the area as well. So I'd love to get you more data.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And as Bob mentioned, our concern at the beginning was when we got responses immediately from the beginning and they were all heavily negative. It was, a little concerning that it was people who might have had a prejudged determination on some of the aspects, especially when they said there was no parking in Vaughn's, which is why we started the non-scientific evaluation of how many parking spaces are in Vaughn's, because that's really the basis of the problem in terms of parking, was just to kind of say, well, how many times is there no parking available in Vaughn's?
Right.
And from
In February,
well, as a baseline, you have to establish some sort of baseline in order to evaluate the criteria in which you want to make modifications.
Spring break when everybody's skiing.
Right.
So in order to make any sort of determination for future improvements, if everybody said everything's fine now and in the future, there's nothing else we need to do.
Right.
If as a baseline we say, hey, here's some concerns as things stand, then that's what we could use to evaluate when we get into the new variable, which is more people, which is the bigger congestion issue.
And how about Spanish?
We did not produce the survey in Spanish, although we could do that with some translation assistance. And that's.
I think that's important, but I don't know about the rest of you. And then getting the word out to the Spanish.
If we move forward with the trial too, we can have it posted in Spanish as well.
And then we could have the announcements made at the church and things like that, and also we could put signs up at the laundromats. And
I think it would be valuable to do another trial, but would need to encompass the time frame of July, when it could be the worst. I think information should be.
So that's what we said, that the next one may be 90 days. Okay. So it's the whole summer is what we're looking at. And of course, when you're looking at traffic, you're looking at the critical points. Okay, and of course it wasn't winter, but like Jordan's saying, that's a baseline. And then we were also trying to address the community's wants at that point, is especially the residents down those streets. So we were trying to do something, and so we needed to capture that data as we changed some things up. And so that was good. I mean, we also said we were going to come back in case there was something kind of blowing up in that after that 60 days, so we could check in with you and you go, modify this, modify that, a little bit there. Okay, now go out and put it back out, so that the community had input. It was their project, it's their parking, and we're trying to react. We're trying to facilitate that for them. And that's what we're here in front of you. We're kind of, hopefully they're watching, because even this survey, every time I'm up in front of you, and I've done it multiple times, I say, hey, there's something on the website, here's the info. And I'm giving little doable bites every time to make a decision on that so people can understand it, not just, we're kind of dragging through this, I'm just trying to take a little piece of it. So this next step is really, if you're good with what's happening there, then this go another 90 days. Or if there's some modifications that you want to see, then so be it. We can go out there and make it. But realize some of the issues that we've talked about, that intersection and that bad intersection, is we are making those changes now. I mean, we're in the project with the ADA ramps. We're going to see some significant improvements that this community needed with the ADA ramps. So we're making it accessible, but also we're making it so somebody even can take a shopping cart down the sidewalk, or having kids and families. And when we're doing that and closing up that project, we're going to be putting those crosswalks and that median. That's going to be more the complete street project that you're looking for, the finishing touches of that Vaughn's project that still has some raw edges on that road.
I think it's unfair to judge the first couple of months because we haven't done that. We don't have the crosswalks. We don't have the...
Yes.
And the one thing I agree with Ms. Albers, I think, we got to do it in the summertime. And also, the one thing I gleaned from this is the fact I thought there was a condition that the employees didn't park in the parking lot. But I've noticed today there were 3 employees parked in the parking lot.
As part of the parking plan, there was a condition of approval, and I know that the planning director sent a letter to them saying that as part of the parking plan, you are not allowed to park here. So that would be code enforcement.
So hopefully
Just
they're
remind them
parking.
again.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're parking on Metropole, because that's where we
company.
set up the non-restricted
Right,
parking.
right.
And I do see a lot more parking on Metropole at that upper end now. It's being utilized fully up there.
But it's all day, huh?
Perhaps if we're sending a letter to Vons, we might also encourage them, since I keep getting emails from pavilions telling me that I can have $20 towards my delivery, my first delivery, that
Have you used it
that they should seriously consider having a delivery service. They do it in their other facilities, and it certainly would be of great assistance here, and they don't have to travel far distances
Yeah.
to deliver the food.
That needs another employee.
And they have electric bicycles now, so it's much easier to go up the hills.
Wow, I'm just saying,
I know.
stand in line with 5 other people and see what happens.
Oh, I know.
Agreed, and I think that was kind of one of the goals, in addition to establishing baselines, but was with some of the questions on what would help you reduce trip miles.
Right.
One of the
That
things
was
that I
one of the
learned from that
suggestions.
question was, one, people were very confused by that question, which means we have to do some education on complete streets and alternative modes of transportation and things like that, so people can think outside of the box, like having delivery services reduce your need to drive to Vons, because I can get what I want and have it delivered. Someone mentioned for the senior center having a shopping cart containment area at the center, so if they do push their carts to there, they can walk, but then there's a singular location where they can be picked up and brought out. Those are ideas that could be maybe used around town. So part of it was also to get people to think about how am I having an impact in this situation? How can I mitigate that impact? What habits could I change, and what design changes could we implement systematically that would then help improve access, not only to Vons, but to the downtown area in general. And putting in so much 1-hour parking, tries to encourage more pedestrian access, because if you can't easily drive everywhere, then you walk everywhere, and if that's something that we desire and value, then how can we continue to encourage that? So,
Okay.
Hopefully they'll have the cart thing taken care of. Hopefully.
Yeah. And Amanda, when is that supposed to come
When does
in?
that take effect?
Amanda, I'm sorry,
For the
was there? I know, no problem. The cart containment, what was the timeline?
They sent the plan, right?
It's been ordered, and so it should be within the next month.
Okay.
And the cart containment is only going to be the parking lot and the little area at the taxi stand. So the idea that the senior center will be able to push carts home, not going to happen.
Right. Okay.
Unfortunately.
They're all over the place.
Okay, so I think that's it. And then it's not more the grass, but just the important couple points here is usually a threshold for parking is if you've got, you're at 85%. So if you got 15% anytime you come up, so if you had 10 spaces, if you have, 1 to 2 of those spaces, that's what downtowns are looking for, is always to have one spot or so to pull in. And we, in this, at least in this period of the study, which is pretty evident out there, is the overall average availability on Catalina was 63%. Overall availability was 60% on Sumner, and Beacon 48. So it says that we have capacity. We have capacity, but realize even in that capacity, there's some uses that aren't being used. There are major uses, the Atwater, and a restaurant right there, and then the old Vons Express that could be putting some of that loading on. Those are traffic generators that once those get filled back in, then we have some different dynamics happening.
Right.
So, but at least in this first part, hey, it seems okay, and it seems like the residents that were in the homes next to Vons were okay. So it seems like the recommendations really continue it on.
Great. Sounds good. Okay. Keep going. Well, you don't have to keep going. I think you're done, right?
Yes.
No, you're not. You've got one more item.
So the consensus on this island is to go 90 days, or do you want to just make it through August, so we have a full season?
Through August, sure.
For trial number 2.
Councilwoman?
But we're going to
And
put the
to-
median in and all of that, sidewalks and
We're going to be
medians.
back here in July, Denise, but that's fine.
Yeah.
No,
Do
but
you want
once-
it in July? Well, we could say right now, we want to make it through the
No,
summer
I think
season.
that we're going to need to be responsive, that if things aren't working,
Oh, absolutely.
that we don't wait 90 days to say it's not working.
Right.
So.
And we'll put the questions out to all the-
Encourage Public Works to continue to gather information and the rest of us to look and see what's happening.
Right.
But I agree that once the crosswalks and the ramps go in, that hopefully will have some calming effect in terms of people trying to run down pedestrians.
Right.
Yeah, really. So a 90-day trial, and a halfway check-in, is that what you're saying?
Well, we said the end of August, but
Okay.
we said the end of August, but if stuff comes up, we'll be asking you to bring it back. Thank you. Okay, sidewalk vendors, item number 12. Dan Hunky.
Bob, you get to sit down for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Let him catch his breath there. Thank you for hearing this item. I think this is the fourth time we've been before you since the first of the year. The recommended action tonight is introduce and waive an ordinance imposing regulations on sidewalk vending in compliance with Senate Bill 946. Stay with me. At the April 2nd meeting, City Council entertained the proposed first reading of an ordinance regarding sidewalk vending. After public comment from both sides of the issue, City Council recommends staff bring back the ordinance with the following changes. On page 2 of your staff report, I have those 3 changes. The first one is section 12.04, prohibited location. Language is included on page 10 of the ordinance include: vendor may operate on the city property at the fuel dock location until a vendor with an exclusive agreement to sell food and beverages on said site opens. So that was included. Number 2, section 21.05, review and permit application. Language was included on page 13 to have the vending requirement increase from 2 days per week to 4 days per week and include a minimum of 4 hours per day of vending. And then the third item was number 3, section 21.06, stationary sidewalk vending and locations. Language was added on page 14 regarding trash disposal. The language included cites sidewalk vending maintains the vending areas in a clean and orderly and in sanitary condition, including maintaining and emptying trash receptacles for waste generated by their operations. So I think those were the 3 items you'd asked for. Staff is looking for some additional clarification prior to hopefully having this approved tonight. On page 3 of your staff report, are those items. We had some discussion about the term of the permit. At this point, we've left that blank for some discussion. Staff is, we initially had a 6-month period. We thought that was too short. The discussion was that was too short, especially in lieu of the time it would take for a food vendor to go through the process of having a cart permitted, having a cart constructed, and then being able to vend. Staff at this time is recommending that there's consideration for a food vendor to have a 2-year period of time, and that would start the day that the permit is awarded, and that a merchandise vendor be of 18 months. So I'd like to have some discussion about that. I can go through the 3 items, and then, or do you want to discuss them individually?
Well, in terms of the time limits, the 18 months, because truly when it comes right down to it, with all those applicants you have, I don't know how many of them are really serious. I mean, do you have any idea with the 30 or so apps?
So we're at 25 applications. I would say probably more than half are serious about
serious?
it. Yes.
Okay. And in terms of so the casino dock site, I mean, my personal opinion is if the city does the assigning, that be where a food cart is so that there's food out there for the divers and the people. But at the same time, that person needs to know then but they could be booted out shortly. So that's probably not going to be a big, I wouldn't imagine it's going to be a big food wagon or whatever you call those things. But to me, it's almost like once they've done it, if we do an evaluation, if they haven't met up to the things, and then we get rid of them. Other than that, I don't know why we'd want to keep changing. I think if anything, we may say, oh, this has been really working pretty good. Some people, but he's not going to like this. But maybe then there's an expansion of the program instead of turning it, because I think some of this is going to take care of itself. I mean, if I'm selling T-shirts, you know, I don't know, I'm going to sell T-shirts forever. And it's supposed. Whoa, that was a cool thing. What was that? Was that you, Jim?
Drive by.
Oh, okay. I don't feel real comfortable about limiting the time. Is all.
Maybe a different way to do that is to stick with the lottery program, but to give a preference to people, you know, some sort of it's probably going to be based on a point system, that if you've already had a permit and you've operated it within the structure of our program, that you would have, extra points in terms of the lottery so that your name would be at the top.
I guess the question is, right now, we've left it blank in the ordinance.
Right.
In terms of, do you want to limit it? Because let's assume you had over 30 and 15 people actually are serious about this. Because obviously we're going to come back in a year after, or at least after the summer, and talk about how it works to see if you want to increase the number.
Right.
But right now, the question is, do you want to put a limitation on the number of terms? I've got two minor changes to the ordinance. If you want me to go over those, I'm just on page 7. And this is of the actual ordinance itself. Under the definition of sidewalk vendor and vending, the second line, it says, or carries, eliminate the word on a.
Give me the number, the 2103.
Okay. It's E.
Oh, E. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, good. Okay.
Or carries a food or merchandise?
Or carries
Or
food.
carries food or merchandise.
You
Okay.
take off on a.
And then we're going to add, after merchandise vending business, just to make certain that this is just for vending businesses. So it's a food or merchandise vending business. That's just a typo. I did want to also then go to page 11, which is condition D on that. This is after you've gone through the process and you're given a permit. The last sentence says, such permit shall state at which locations the applicant has been approved to vend. And we're going to add, and any conditions of approval for the permit. So in other words, once we look at the application, we may want to put in conditions of approval. If you recall that we're treating these like encroachment permits, and the city has the ability to put conditions of approval on encroachment permits, and so we're just making that there.
And any conditions of approval?
Yeah. And any conditions of approval for the permit.
This could potentially be something that comes back down the road, but in that same section, and I think there's one, maybe two others, if the community services director or his/her designee, I'd really like that to be the community services director or the city manager, for protection of our frontline staff.
Yeah.
It just, this needs to be a high-level approval.
Okay, so if that's the will of the council, then what I would do is I would, wherever it says or his/her designee, I would change that to city manager.
Yeah.
Just throughout the ordinance.
Okay.
And I would just note that we did receive at least one letter about some suggestions to the ordinance, and I would note that the items suggested in terms of having ability to have employees, to make certain that the solicitation laws apply, those are already in the ordinance already. We don't need any changes. They're already in there. The one exception is that we cannot, under the lottery system or just in the ordinance, we can't give a preference to Avalon residences. The Supreme Court doesn't allow you to do that. And so that's the only suggestion that we wouldn't have. Again, we've added, it's the trash receptacles. We've actually included it in all locations, whether you're stationary in a park or if you are roaming, you have to have a trash receptacle there where you sell so people can put it in. And lastly,
Can it be a plastic
And then
bag?
the suggestion about making provision for employees, recognizing that somebody's not going to.
that is already in there. All what you need to do
Right.
is you just need to give the name of the employees to the city.
Okay.
The one thing that, lastly, the mayor had a question about do we include,
Where is the section on the employees again?
oh, gosh. Okay, hang on.
Oh,
I'll find
never
it.
mind, I'll look for it while you're looking
Okay.
at the other one.
Oh, it says roaming.
Oh, we in the sidewalk vendor, sidewalk vending, it's again on page 7, E.
And on page 15.
We include pedal-driven carts
Okay.
as the definition. So the Good Humor Man is a traditional one that you would consider.
Could I pull something with a Segway?
I say no.
Yeah, that'd be motorized, so I think that would not.
Well, I'm just asking you, are we going to say
That's
nothing on it?
no.
So if I have a bicycle,
Non-motorized.
I have an electric bike, but it also pedals, I'm good?
Pedal-driven cart.
Okay, but
So
if,
you can't use the electric.
so,
If you're vending, you could not use the electric.
and why
Like
not?
if you're going home, you could use the electric, but.
I know, but why couldn't that be motorized? So if I want to pull my little.
Right now, it just says or because we are saying.
For safety.
I know, but how, okay, but if I want to,
That's
if I want to
council
pull my
decision.
ice cream wagon up Whitley and Marilla to accommodate,
Right.
I can't ride a bike up there.
No, that's true.
And so,
Whitley and Marilla don't get ice cream.
Well, we can, the law
I don't even know if
requires
anybody wants to do
that we
this. I
can't
just-
ban it in residential areas. We can ban stationary ones, but we can't ban roaming ones.
That's true.
Right.
so should be able to have electricity.
So this needs
no
to
sidewalk
make
on Marilla.
provision for that.
But you ride your bicycles on the street. You're not supposed to ride your bikes on sidewalks.
You can't pedal in the street, you can't bend in the streets.
But you can move and then pull over.
There's no place to pull over.
There's parking.
All private property. It's either the street or private property.
So I would think at this point, we leave
Okay.
we leave it as it reads. We will have an evaluation period as well, where we can talk
Okay.
about, is 6 enough, is 6 too many? And if that comes back and there's some issues, we can rediscuss that. So I think we're back to the term of this, some discussion about the term.
The 24 and 18 month makes, I think,
Yeah.
is as good a suggestion as we're going to get at this point until we see. I'm
Okay.
fine with
And then we might be able to extend it. We could work on something like that.
Come back in a year, right?
The second point for consideration, there was some discussion about Machine Gun Park or City Park.
Right.
The ordinance itself, the Senate bill itself, says a local authority shall not prohibit a sidewalk vendor from selling food or merchandise in a park owned or operated by a local authority.
I think that the conversation kind of got off the rails because the Conservancy was excited at the idea that they might not have some competition in the park
Right,
next door to
right.
them, but it was not, I mean, at least was not my intent when we talked about parks. It was to
Right.
include all the parks as possible locations. I don't see why we would exempt
Right, I agree.
that part.
We have
Unless
agreement
the owner
there?
wants us to exempt
But it was a long meeting, so.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, the other one.
we are allowing it in every park except
Machine Gun
around
Park?
Joe Machado Field. Machine Gun
Right.
Park is not our property.
Right.
No, it is.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
But
we
it's-
have
so
a
we allow
license.
it.
We have a license or something
We
from the
lease it
island.
for $1
island
per
company.
year.
We lease
We
it
have
for
a
a
lease?
dollar.
Yeah, we lease it, yeah.
So it's our,
Yeah, it's
20
one of
years.
ours. I think there was just some confusion about that.
right.
So it is our part.
24
Lease it.
months. and
It's
18
leased, so it's operated, so under the Senate bill, we should be able to have a vendor there.
Right, good,
Okay.
good.
And the last item for discussion, we'll open up for public comment, was the item, staff proposing as part of the lottery system for sidewalk vending, which will be coming back in more detail, that we consider 3 vendors being selected for food and 3 vendors for merchandise. We can break out the applications and draw them individually, so we don't have potentially 5 or 6 merchandise or 5 or 6 food. So an item for consideration.
But that'll be,
Okay.
yeah, that'll be one of the things that we'll talk about, hopefully at the next meeting, because assuming, the next meeting it would be adopted, and then you've got 30 days from that date, so.
Well, let's back it up for a second and have a conversation only at the council level for right now. And no disrespect for those of you that are here that want to talk about it, but I really need to feel good about this, and I want the council to weigh in. We initially said that this was going to be a first come, first serve, and we had people come down the very next day, even though we had told them to come down, even though we didn't know exactly what all the requirements were going to be. And so then we've changed our minds after that happened and said that we were going to do a lottery system. So help me remember, how did we make the decision that we would change our minds on how we would do the permits?
The demand was greater than we anticipated. Basically.
And also, you have not decided yet whether it's first come or first serve, or a lottery. That is going to be worked out when you adopt the resolution establishing the lottery. What you did direct us, though, was to have it limited to 6.
Yeah, so the initial recommendation was to be on a first-come, first-served basis, and then the lottery would start the 6 months thereafter, after that first term. And so that's when the lottery would kick in. And then it moved to, it's all lottery, so.
Because I think there was a recognition too that giving somebody a permit for 6 months and then expecting that they were going to make investments
Right.
that they might, lose in 6 months didn't make very much sense.
So now we're at a 24 and an 18 months.
Well, that's not
Term.
decided yet. I mean, they could go 5 years. I mean, again, it's up to the council.
But
However
right
long
now
you
we're
want.
I
saying-
think there was consensus that
Yeah, I think
24
there's
and
consensus.
18.
Yeah,
To
there's
start with,
consensus that
to start with
Yeah.
made sense.
I just need to feel good about saying we agreed to do one thing and now we're changing it.
Right.
When we know at least one, if not, I think 2 members of the community have already expended resources and money to do this.
And they are, and again, if they've complied with everything, this order,
Right now, they could do it.
they could do it.
Right.
But
they
in
could do
6
it.
months, they could not be chosen in the lottery. And I'm not advocating for 1 or 2 persons, I'm just saying
Right.
we need to be fair about, we made an agreement.
That
now we're
depends, well,
making
but
it
that
fair.
depends on how you decide the lottery works.
Like if we throw in the money in
I
lottery with more
think the
points.
midway point in recognizing that we probably were too hasty in saying first come, first serve, that really was before we had thought this through in terms of how many we were going to allow,
Oh, sure.
what the restrictions were going to be, that we wanted both food and merchandising. I mean, I don't think we had considered any of those things. I think the halfway point is the idea that if you've already been doing it, that you get a preference in the lottery. That's whether it means, you move up 5 spaces from the number that you're given, or however the city attorney decides to do that. But I think that, something that recognizes that person has made an expenditure and that they have committed
Right.
resources.
Okay, fair enough.
Would be a good
Well,
compromise.
and let me, okay, I'm sorry. Do you kind of make a comment?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's we have not approved a permit. I've been telling people I would not spend money. I would not, purchase carts. I would not get insurance until we get further down the road here, just for this reason, so.
Okay.
So the other thing is about the food prep. So if in fact we are going to go with the 3 and 3, and I don't know, are we totally solid on that? I'm not sure.
Again, that's for determination at a later date.
Okay, but I don't know what people, like the gentleman who wants to make the fruit cups. Very simple thing, but still. We have those three sinks, and what they do over town is they kind of give a place where people can prep. And I don't know, because I guess if I can find a restaurant that would allow me to prep my food there, that's legal, that's okay?
Health department signs off.
Well, what, it would just be like, okay, so okay, I got that.
I mean, they're going to have to get county the county is going to have to approve
Okay.
that.
Yeah, it would need to be approved commercial kitchen, yes.
Okay, but is there any way that somebody could utilize those things that we have to do prep?
We don't have a kitchen. We don't have a license.
We have three, if I'm just going to cut up ice cream, cut up whatever, and we have containers of water, because remember, we did put them up out there for,
They're going to need to have access to hot water, which we wouldn't necessarily have, I think, and I'd have to check with the county, but it's going to have to be an indoor facility for
has to
prep.
be indoor.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just trying to see how to accommodate, because if, yeah, okay, all right.
But remember, there's really three categories. There's the merchandise, there's the food that you prepare, and then there's the prepackaged food like
Right.
ice cream.
Exactly.
Or, stuff that you don't need to prepare.
But the guy who wants to make the huaraches or the whatever, there he's got to find a full kitchen. Okay, all righty.
And then we're just a couple of legal things. There's a mention here about whether the city is going to be able to charge rent or not. The way that I read the state law, we do not have that authority. And I think that the penalty provisions are preempted by the state law.
They are the state law. I just popped them in our ordinance.
No, it says like $350, and the state law was. Let me see where that was.
That should be to the back of the,
Penalties, $100 for a first violation, $200, no. This is actually our administrative penalties out of it, yeah. But no, the state law is very specific that the penalties are based on what somebody can afford to pay. You have to offer community service as an option. So I just think you need to go back and look at SB 946 and probably just reference that.
Okay, what we can, because we've got it in there. It's on page 18, section G. When assessing an administrative fine pursuant to this ordinance, the adjudicator shall take into consideration the person's ability to pay the fine. What we can do is this, so we don't have to bring this back, is the penalties that the amounts will be the exact
Oh, okay,
as.
maybe it is. Maybe the amounts are the same. When I printed this out, it was so small.
No problem.
yeah, we can certainly check them and then.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, for some reason, it sounded to me like we were reading from our code as opposed to the state code, but I trust you.
Because we do have a code, and somebody has gotten a fine for first violation of not.
No, I mean, it's set out in,
Right,
it's set out in the state law.
Yeah, and again,
Under this.
if you look at 18 G2.
Yeah, if I look at the big screen, I could read it, you're right.
If you look at G2, the city may allow the person to complete community service in lieu of paying the fine.
Okay, I just didn't read far enough. Great,
problem.
thank you.
Okay, good.
Okay,
So,
that
council,
was all my comments for.
is somebody going to introduce and waive?
Do we want to open it up to the
Oh,
community?
I'm sorry.
I just wanted that one conversation to happen because I didn't want to get sidetracked on
Right.
why we made that decision.
Okay. Yes.
Did our birds fall apart?
Fair.
My only comments would be for the street vending with the first come, first serve is me being a new business owner and trying to launch my own business is I did come up to the city in January and I asked about my opportunities, and street vending is still an issue. It's still being configured and all that, but it was not offered to me in January. So I was probably the 24th applicant. So I've been participating in so many booths, so many things for so many years. So with the first come, first serve, I would like to just say I don't think that's the fairest. But besides that, I also have worked on Front Street for years, and I see people selling food on a daily basis downtown. Who's going to regulate that? Like, is there going to be any regulation for the people that are already merchandising and already doing this stuff? It's mostly food, but it's open, like people are doing it. So is that going to be monitored after this, like after the 6 or whatever permits are up?
I'm sure it will be, and like I said, somebody was busted and got given a $100 fine, but some people can move quickly, so I think we try to do our best to not have that happen, but some things fall through the cracks.
Those would be my only 2 concerns at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bryce Knoll, representing Leo's. One of the challenges that I've been looking into since the last meeting from a locational standpoint is, as of right now, I believe the way the ordinance is read, from Lloyd's and Leo's up to the street, there could be street vending there. And I did some measuring, and it looks about from the edge of the brick planters, you would be able to, outside of the brick planters, be able to have a street vendor cart in the center of that area. And there are currently 8 businesses in that area, and it can hold a 9th, most of which receive freight on a daily basis. On top of it, it's an area that has a whole lot of city trucks moving through it, and is the place that the fire trucks come down anytime there's an issue on the waterfront. So I have some concern in terms of the safety aspect of placing a business there. The other thing as a pharmacy is that the town, it's not official, but the town uses the area in front of that pharmacy as handicap parking for anybody that needs to come and pick up prescriptions. And this would potentially cause some issues from that standpoint. So just wanted to voice my concerns.
Yeah, we'll take those comments. Thank you, Bryce. Misa, Matt?
Hi, City Council, Madam Mayor. Thank you guys so much for opening it up to city comments. I wanted to talk just a little bit about, pushing vendors away from Front Street. One of the main aspects of allowing food vendors is to allow at our peak times. It's a 2-hour wait for food. Also for locals allowing to get food. I think it's very important that we don't get rid of the walkways leading into Crescent Avenue, because if we do, the people that want to get food won't be able to get it, and the people that are going to work won't be able to receive the food as well. One of the biggest things that I really would love the council to address is what vendors, concerned citizens, people for it, people against it really need to see is a map of the proposed locations. I noticed in the ordinance it talked about having such a map, but that map hasn't become available yet. So the council doesn't really know what's going on. The vendors don't know what's going on. The concerned citizens don't know what's going on. I think that would really give a lot of clarification. And I know Mr. Hunke's office has worked pretty tirelessly on this project, but getting clarification, I think, would really bring it to the forefront. The other comment I wanted to talk about was the permitting process. And first come, first serve is how the council had talked about issuing the permits. When they were put into process, that's how Dan Hunke had described the process. I understand the council ultimately wants to do what's best, so they can change their mind if they think that's what is best. I've put a lot of time, energy, and money into this based upon those statements, and I would really encourage the council to keep that done in the same way. First come, first serve gives a very clear, transparent, and incontestable definitive process into it. A lottery complicates things, it obscures it, and it really turns it into an ongoing issue. No other business in town has to compete in a lottery for their permit. Vehicle permits don't need a lottery. The cannabis permit wasn't under a lottery. The shoreboat contract wasn't under a lottery. These were all done with what would work best in the mind. And if we are modeling our laws after Carmel by the Seas ordinance, I'd like to point out that in that ordinance, section 12.46.030, subsection D, states, permits shall be issued in the order they are received and deemed complete. This first come, first served precedent set by the vehicle permit and others program grants access to an extremely limited commodity in a fair, organized, and transparent way. Also, what happens when a new permit becomes available? Do we need to hold a new lottery for the single permit? Will the city want to do this each and every time? So I would just ask the council to think about that proposal. And in my opinion, I think it's logical to do a first come, first serve based upon the paperwork that's issued, because it gives everyone a very clear idea of where they stand.
Matt, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
So, and again, we're not going to have to deal with that today, but if somebody comes up tomorrow with all their stuff.
Under the resolution that we passed
They can
3 or
get-
4 months ago, they can be issued a permit.
Okay.
A 6-month permit.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, I did want to speak to your comment earlier. I've spoken at length with Denise Navarro. She's the chief of the Plan Check Department for the Los Angeles County Health Department, and she says there will be no sharing of kitchens allowed. That means that a individual will not be able to just get a owner's permission to use their commercial kitchen, shared kitchen. They will either need to, A, construct their own commercial kitchen at a cost, commercial space, renting, things like this, or invest in a business and become a significant investor with a current commercial kitchen.
Okay.
So it's quite the extensive process, and
Right.
I'm not sure if all the food vendors are aware of the very extensive regulations that LA
thank
County
you for
has.
that.
Because we also live on the island, we don't have access to a commissary, which is what all the other food vendors in LA do.
Right.
So I've spoken at length with the health department over this, and they are willing to work with us, but they still have very, very strict regulations. No outdoors, no temporary buildings, no storage sheds, hot water, wastewater disposal, and what they really want is all of them in the exact same area. They don't want you having to go to one area to do your prep and another area to do your storage.
Right.
They want to combine it all in the same. In that same aspect, the wastewater from washing the cart has to go into an OSHA-approved drain.
Right.
I believe there's only one drain on the island which meets those requirements. So it's a complicated process, to say the least, and I really appreciate the city council's and really all members' viewpoints on
Yes,
this.
great.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. Great comments. Okay. Oh, what's that?
Just wanted to make a comment on the first-come basis. At the time that it was announced at the city council meeting, someone had already taken out 3 permits the day before. So we didn't know. The next morning, those who came, we were told at that time there were going to be 12 permits. Well, now it's become 6 permits. So the rules have changed along the way. So I don't think it was fair in the very beginning.
Okay. And nobody took out 3 permits, they signed up for 3. They signed their name 3 times, yes. Yes, okay. Okay. All righty, well, council?
Dan, did you get all the direction that you needed from council?
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I think we can introduce and
Right.
move to second reading, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my motion.
Second.
With the changes that the city attorney indicated needed to be made.
Great. Okay.
Second.
No further, yes?
Second? Yeah.
No further comment? Call for the vote.
Thank
All
you.
ayes.
Thank you.
Good job, Dan.
Okay,
Yeah.
Bob, you're back up.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 more for Bob.
Okay.
2 more.
Madam Mayor?
Wait, hang on.
I would like to request that we remove item number 13 from general business for a future agenda item. If I'm coming back maybe with the archway and this item, maybe if we don't wait till the May 7th, I could pull you to see if there was an additional meeting before May 7th.
Okay.
The thought was, given that the council's comments earlier at the meeting that they don't want to delegate, that you don't want to delegate authority, that it just makes sense to pull this item and wait till we open the bids and then come back to you.
So we can just create a special meeting for this item?
Very good.
And then
Okay,
the one.
fair.
Like the first.
Good.
All righty.
Okay.
As
Like the
early as
first, we
possible,
could
yes.
do
Yes,
this.
perfect. All right,
Okay.
item number 14,
Number
Bob
14.
Greenlaw.
Okay, so now we're back to the remodel at 206 East Whitley. We've made substantial progress. You can see that you don't have the full set of plans because there's lots of details in there, but it's definitely a healthy set, and we can provide a full set of plans. But what we provided was an overview so that you can look and see if they were right on. Basically, the plan set will repeat versus the power, plumbing, electrical. So once you look at these few pages that I'm going to share with you, you'll get the concept down and see that if we're on the right track. So, come on.
are we on the right track in terms of the estimate of 207,000?
So what I gave to the architect was this exact list. After you gave me direction,
Right.
council gave me direction, I said, we need to stay within, this estimated budget. We had a $300,000 estimate, and then we took $30,000 off the top that we estimated for the sewer lateral, okay? So now I'm down at 270. Then I've got some cost to pay for the architect, so, in the range of 240, 250, if I'm there. And you can see by putting this, the way I put the numbers together here, I said, okay, David, you need to stay within this range, and that's what they've been working on. And when you look at kind of the finishes that they're actually speccing on this, they're pretty generic. They're something you can go to Home Depot, you can go, hey, it looks nice, it's good, and it matches the modern style of what's happening, but it's something that is that anybody could go buy, and so that's what we're trying to provide. I think that's what you told me to do, to go get those things done.
Right.
Okay, so there's the first sheet is the cover sheet, and then we go into the bottom floor is the next sheet.
Right.
I got the full set of plans here, so. Skip.
Yeah. Nothing really exciting there. So I actually had, I don't know if this is representative of the front of the building, but my recollection is those windows are pretty big, and when you look at, I'm trying to think of it, it's I found it. Now where did it go?
The picture of the windows?
Yeah, A-3. So it shows 05 is the code for retrofit, so it shows we're going to retrofit the bottom window in the front, but I couldn't find the same thing for the upper, which is a really big window. So I'm just wondering, are we going to do stucco work and put
all windows are being replaced, okay?
Well, no, but originally what you had said is we were going to retrofit them so that we didn't have to do a bunch of stucco work.
Yes, and that's the intent, is to retrofit within the frames there
right.
to the best of our ability.
So my specific question was is this just a mistake on the plans, or is the intent to retrofit both of those windows in the front?
The intent
those big picture windows.
The intent is to retrofit within the frames
Okay,
that
so
are
it's
there.
missing the code on the top window.
Yes.
And then did we decide that we're going to leave the bedroom one with the closet outside of it?
Okay, let's go over to...
there was some discussion about trying to make bedroom one a little bigger, recognizing that it is that railroad where you've got to walk through.
And the angle on that wall can change. And so it was just squared up.
Okay, it's
and then
squared.
When you see the architect laid that out with like a full-size bed in there, it worked. Put a dresser in there and put a nightstand. All that worked, and really that was just so the clothes out there. And I think what he was attempting to do was have a little more space in that hallway so it could be multi-purpose, that
like
you had some something, or maybe just even a play area. If you had a kid, that there would be something in the middle of the hallway. You just wouldn't be in the bedroom. The bedroom would be more for sleeping and a quiet area versus you opened up that, he was trying to open up, and you see that on the layout of, let me get it so everybody can see it here. Let's go to page A25A. Right. Okay, and that's really the finished floor plan for second and first floor. So the first floor is over to the left, second floor is on the right. See, they're pretty much mirror image. But what he also did was that the kitchen right now is a U-shaped. And what he did, he took out that wall and now put an island in the middle of the room there. And so now we have this kitchen, living room, and then there's still an area that could have like a four-top there back by the wall. Right. So you could have a kitchen table, a dinette table, but then it opens up that whole area to be more flexible for you, and then to have that open living space, okay? So it's not as closed.
So it'll be something you can put bar stools up to.
Yeah, exactly. Right now they got 3 or 4.
Idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Okay. And then you can see that one of the things you'd ask is have the potential for that deck in the back, and that's what I was trying to, and that had an add alt of $8,000 to have. Now we're using that piece of real estate in the back 3 times. We've got where it is on the first floor, and now we're adding a deck on each level. And so that piece of real estate gets used 3 times. It's a very simple deck. It's going to have some steel members that are being worked on right now, the engineering on them. And then it'll have a composite, because composite is kind of holds up good over here. So those are products, as long as we keep the paint on the steel, we don't get the dry rot. The composite, we're going to use it out on our floats in the harbor, so it's held up well for us. So that's what we're trying to put these materials in that hold up well. And then, let's see what else I can show you. So in that, so that bedroom 1, on each one of those bedroom 1s in that 2-bedroom, and that's where we're talking about, Councilman Albers and I, about the wall, whether it can be on that angle or where it's squared up.
Okay.
And that always can be changed when we're in construction too, if we lay it out. So, but you can see where, and then there actually is an area for a laundry, but that's not laundry provided by the city, but it was just so that if somebody came in with a stacked unit, they didn't have to walk down the stairs. They had so they had a family and they had the kids there. I don't have to go do my laundry. I can do it right there if I purchase a unit. But there is, if you go to...
So the plumbing will be there?
Yeah, the plumbing will be there, and it can just be used. It'll be a multi-purpose, because we'll actually probably have shelving as an alternative, so you can use it as a closet or that. But if you go to A.2.5, Jordan, you can see the bottom floor. And so you can see that we still have the laundry room onto the right side. And then behind that is a storage area for all the units. So there's 4 storage lockers, and there's areas for bikes, kayaks, or whatever, because there's a big space of the house. And then to the left is a workshop area. That's where kind of like that bootleg little apartment is there, without the legal ceiling heights and all that. So, and then so we've made that a workshop, so something for maintenance for the whole area, for the whole complex there. That's where the lawnmowers, all the tools, everything, supplies could be used.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, what unit's the ADA unit?
ADA?
Yeah.
Unit. Isn't that the lower
It's not
unit?
required on this, with this number of units, but those bottom 4 units could be made ADA accessible with the bathroom modifications. It's really the bathroom modifications, because the walkways up to it will be compliant, so if somebody comes up to it.
I thought we talked about we were going to have one ADA.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make sure that one of them is ADA, and it'd be like one of the 1-bedroom units?
Yes.
Yeah, the lower floor first
Okay.
made sense,
Right.
I think is what we had talked about.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's why we're here. Trying to
Perfect.
finalize this. And then if we go to A6.0, that's the bathroom setups, and you can see that they have shower stalls, and very simply, a lavatory, toilet, pretty simple setup, but it's all nice and clean. And one of the things that's important is that the electrical fixtures, all the outlets, all that gets renewed, but all the plumbing gets renewed, because there's cast iron plumbing in the house, there's galvanized pipe, those things are all shot.
Right.
And that's part of taking the finishes off, is to get at that, so we have low maintenance. But when we do that, now we provide a nice, clean, safe, usable, functional place that we don't have much maintenance on.
Right.
Okay? And that's what you'll be providing with these units. And then I think the last one, if you go over to A6.1, that's the kitchen elevations. Okay, and you can see that, again, this is pretty generic cabinets, but they're in the style of modern style. And they got a flat panel behind. And you can also see the island will have the 3 lights over it on elevation D there. So it has some cabinets underneath. So plenty of cabinets, plenty of storage, very functional kitchen, very family-oriented, very, where you could have some entertaining there too. And then the one last one, I guess you didn't, look at the elevation, the outside. So A3.0. Okay, so you see on the front entry there, we've taken 2 stairways and made 1 stairway, the steel stringer, so everything's steel, the structural and concrete treads. So no more rot, because that's the problem with them right now, it's rotten. And then in the back, if you look over to the left on the elevation, the north elevation, you see the decks now being added. What you see with that tan there is really, it's a composite wall. So composite decking now put in a wall so it separates up the left unit from the right unit so you get a little more privacy. And then all they're showing is, hey, they had some planters out there on their deck. But that's the material, is just simply a screening wall. And then you see that the rails on the back deck are basically the cable and steel and simple, straightforward, low maintenance. So that's what we have.
Where's the heat coming from?
The heat, we were going to actually put those individual units. That's what they're pricing out. Okay.
Like we have in the conference.
Like we have in there.
Yeah, those are,
Yeah.
one in the living room, one in
Because-
each of the bedrooms.
Yeah, because right now there's just wall heaters, which are, a cheap source of doing it, but I think that we could do a little bit better on it.
And I honestly think we need to consider air conditioning for
Yeah, well, that all could
projects
be-
from here on out. I
they-
mean, there was a
yeah.
time when I never would have said that, but
Yeah, and they do both.
yeah, and they
Yeah.
do both, right?
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a very livable unit for everybody.
Okay, so the only thing I'm concerned about, because we seem to be bumping up against the summer, and it's going to add to the cost and probably eliminate potential competition by having over town people want to bid because they can't find a place to put workers. So I'm assuming that this is something that we're going to shoot for bidding in August with a start date in late October or something.
You tell me, whatever you
Yeah.
want. I'm just trying to keep the project moving on this one, okay?
Right.
It's just delivering it to be able to get the housing, okay?
Right.
And there's lots of steps along the way, but right now I wanted to complete the plans. At some point, if nothing else, get a set of bids, and maybe that's not the set of bids. Maybe we can do a check-in, and maybe we have to rebid it, but.
Well, then maybe they can live in the units while they're fixing them
Well,
up.
yeah, it's just, I don't know, it makes sense that they do all of something in
I know,
each of the
yeah.
units, so it's not like they're gonna do one unit at a time.
No, it has to be all done at once. That's where we're gonna have the
Right.
efficiency,
Yeah,
yes.
so I'm just thinking
You're
that,
right on the money there.
that's always a challenge that meets a contractor from over town is, where am I gonna put people?
And it's prevailing wage once again?
It's prevailing wage.
Prevailing wage.
And you think 270 is
Anything
gonna
over
be enough?
$1,000 in public works is
Right.
prevailing wage.
What's that?
Any public contract over $1,000 is prevailing wage.
Okay, so I know, so 270 is not going to be enough.
Yes. But no, well, I don't know. No, I told them it was prevailing wage, so.
But
we'll
who
see.
are you telling? These people?
The architects.
The
Okay, but
architect.
the architects aren't the
So they're
builders.
choosing materials and.
Yes.
But the architects aren't the builders.
Yeah, but they're talking to the contractors that do these type of
Are they?
projects,
Okay.
and that they would be willing.
And the Catalina
to- yeah.
factor of 20.
So, Annie, the architect's going to spec out and say that this light fixture is cost this much, and it costs this much to install it. And so when you go to bid, you then say, well, there's no way you can put that light fixture in that building, and there's no way you can do it for $10. So, I mean,
They get that
the
specific.
architect gives all the specifications, and then the contractor goes in and provides.
And the
Whether they
architect
can
tells
do
how
it
many,
less or
and
more.
and like she said, the architect will say, this is how long it should take you to put in a blah, blah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and because he's definitely consulting with builders that build these type of projects. So,
But I mean, and there's always the Avalon factor. I mean, that's.
Exactly.
yes,
You can't
exactly.
plan for that,
Which
so.
we're hearing tonight. We're hearing how
Right.
everything goes up.
But I'm just concerned about doing projects in the summer, not
Right.
just because of the disruption,
Right.
but because it adds to our costs.
Yes.
Or it eliminates potential people from
Right.
bidding. So.
So as long as we're moving forward, I would rather see a final set of documents at the earliest possible opportunity, give the direction to move forward. You decide whether you're going to launch the RFP on August 1st for the 30 days. Starting September, hotel rooms and vacancies starting the Tuesday after Labor Day. So in keeping this moving forward, this project could start in September,
Right.
and it
Which would
wouldn't
be
be
great.
as impactful.
Which would be great.
So,
Okay. Well, so I'm going to finish up the set of plans so we can get it, and you can approve that set of plans. And we'll have the discussion at that point of when to put it out to bid, okay? And then
Right.
we need to talk about, we have one tenant there, and then we have some more stuff with affordable housing to do. I think with RSG and also city attorney. So that those steps need to be done while
Simultaneous.
I'm actually getting the construction ready to go. Okay.
Okay.
So there's other pieces to go, but I'm just trying to keep this on the path forward. It's right now on a good track. Architect's wonderful to work with. Good team. So I just want to be able to deliver that. And
Bob, could you do a favor, and you'd have to work with Matt, but just give us an update on soft cost as these projects go on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually what I'm working with Matt and our team, you're going to see also when we do budget, the capital, the CIP now, because we're working on that. And so I expect in the very near future be able to talk to council members and say, here's the projects, and we're developing that CIP and getting that back to where it needs to be. And so they have detailed sheets. It's not going to be as robust as we want it the first time, but every year it gets better. But at least there'll be something out there, and I think that's what you've been asking for. So that'll have those detailed soft costs in it, and to be able to track the projects better.
Great, thank you, that's great.
Thank you.
Okay, and Chief, did you want to talk about anything since you just walked in the door? Are you okay?
He's been here the whole time.
Well, in and out of the door. Hey, Mike,
He's busy.
anything you want to say?
Focus, Mike.
There's an
We're giving you a hard
I
time.
apologize. Is there a question for me? I was busy doing fire chief stuff.
No, didn't know if there was anything you wanted to report.
I'm sorry, madam.
Just didn't know if there was anything you
Yeah, I had that
wanted
look
to-
on my face like I wanted to say something. The only thing while I have the podium is about weed abatement. Some
Yes.
folks have gotten started on weed abatement. There was a little mix-up with the newspaper about getting the notices in, but they've corrected that. People are doing a great job. I would only caution people that if they get started, some of the stuff that's very green still, if they get started on it really early, that's terrific. But it also will grow back just as quickly. So,
Right, okay.
unless you have questions for me, that's all I have.
No, thank you.
All right, thank
All
you.
right,
Closed session?
and now we are going into closed session,
We have
yes.
2 closed sessions, one conference with labor negotiators for all the listed entities, and then we have conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, update on the mediation we had with Island Enterprises last week and a half
Excellent.
ago.
Okay, would like to say goodnight, Tony, and
Good night, Tony.
thank you all for hanging with us.
Good job, Dan.
Is that called harassment? And we are back from closed session.
No reportable action.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing else to be said. Meeting adjourned.
Happy Easter.
Where did Richard?
Thank you, Jordan.